Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of Fake Accents Unite. Apologies, we are 7 minutes late, but then what else is new? I am joined, as usual, by the afferent Britisher. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, and very, very polite of you to not inform the public that the reason we're late is because I got lost on Discord.
Just at the perfect time, you've had half an hour to mess around with Discord, many weeks to get comfortable with the platform, and someone sends you a friend request, and it all breaks down.
You a friend request and then informs you that he sent you a friend request, and you get lost in the labyrinthine thing that is this Discord thing and try to find it. Yes.
Oh dear. Well, speaking of friends for this evening, we're also joined by Sargon of Akkad. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Pleasure to have you on this evening. Glad you could find time in the schedule. And
thank you so much.
And also by MauLer, who has... I'll let him introduce himself. Good evening.
Hello there. How'd you do?
Not too bad. It's been a while since we've had you on. Something like 14 months. I imagine you'd probably even forgotten we existed.
I remember. I was with Rags, I believe.
Yeah, probably. We tried somewhat unsuccessfully to make a general British culture and politics podcast into some sort of video game review with an American and so forth. So it's all good. A few super chats coming in, obviously accusing us of being late and that sort of thing. So let's go through those.
Would that be by someone Danish?
Possibly.
Or Finnish?
Well, Sutskoen, our resident timekeeper, says, calling it now, NSO is late and MauLer is a massive. Well, thank you very much for that.
Sometimes the truth is.
I can tell that...
I won't even pretend to know what that means.
You realise that for most of this evening's stream, MauLer, you may end up having to translate the deepest of lore for people.
That wouldn't be a new experience for me. It's okay.
Greed the Avaricious says, with all this positivity with Boris and Cummings and this ambitious plan for the future, I say, with some British reserve, things can only get better. Oh, I like to think so. Don't you guys?
Yeah, I think so.
Definitely think. Speaking of Dominic Cummings, that reminds me we have this thing which went under the radar. But I'll leave you with the words Benedict Cumberbatch and have you think about whether or not it's a topic that you know. I don't know whether you know the topic I'm going to bring up. DRT is King says, "Free Hong Kong. Enjoy the sweet Brexit milk." Thank you very much.
Regarding Dominic Cummings, am I the only person who thinks that the BBC ought to have a sort of interview panel show in which they've got Dominic Cummings, Cressida Dick, and Ed Balls on?
I would pay to see it. I mean,
yes. Moving on.
But I would like Dominic Cummings on Question Time or something like that, so they can all virtue signal. And if he's anything like he's portrayed by the media, he'll savage them.
Drake Glazer says, "Say my name, Mr. Britisher."
Sorry, who is it who was asking things like that? You would give me a hint as to how to pronounce that name.
Drake Glazer.
Drake Glazer.
Drake Glaser, Glaser.
Yes, I was kind of guessing at that last time round when he sent one or two super chats, and the name defeated me.
Oh dear. British Knight says, NSO, you're late, you massive. Also, hi, long man and CEO of Applebee's.
I assume that's me.
I have no idea.
I've gone up in the world. I used to just be a waiter.
Not bad.
Yeah, right. From waiter to CEO.
Weren't we all waiters at one point, or
No, I was a kitchen porter.
Oh,
wasn't that the case with the the CEO of McDonald's who was recently Me Too'd?
Right.
Oh, was
he actually come from the shop floor? That he had actually worked his way up to become the CEO of McDonald's?
There's quite a few.
Bloody hell, that's determination, isn't it? Like,
well, there's actually quite a few like that. Like the ex-CEO of Morrison's, when I used to work there way back in the day, was a chap who worked his way up from trolley boy to CEO. So
I think that's great.
How long did that take?
I know. It speaks something to the social ladder. But can you imagine if it was just, Daddy's actually one of the big regional managers. Go be a trolley boy for 3 weeks, and then we'll move you up to upper management, lad. Don't worry. You can say you crawled up from the bottom.
I mean, it's certainly possible that happened, but you're right, Brish. It does speak a lot to the social movement of the country, doesn't it?
Yes, and it's all the more depressing that then in the end he has to resign because he had a relationship with a member of staff.
Oh yeah, it's just strictly forbidden, isn't it? Yeah.
All right, okay, well, that'll teach him.
Have you ever seen what's the one of the really creepy film, The Society? It's just called Society, I think. Do you know this one? Sort of a classic of the 80s.
I haven't seen it.
No, I don't know that one.
Not familiar.
This doesn't ring a bell.
It's about a guy who believes he's like completely paranoid, and he's from a kind of a very rich family, and he believes that there's something out to get them, and that there's some kind of weird sex cult going on amongst the upper class, and it turns out they're all aliens and out to get him and that sort of thing. But they refuse to, socialize with the lower classes unless they're going to eat them and that sort of thing. You wonder if that's it,
That sounds awesome. What was it called? Society?
So yeah, Society. It's pretty good.
Right, okay, great. I'm gonna watch that later. That sounds great. Because I think it's probably true. Most of
the
them
next time when you meet him, you can debate it with Alex Jones.
Yeah,
I have to warn you, it's quite graphic. There you go.
Well, the thing is, I don't actually like doing that with Alex Jones, the longer the timeline goes on for, the more correct Alex Jones becomes. And it's actually starting to unnerve me at this point. So if Alex Jones says, the thing is, it's not even Alex Jones that says they're lizards, he says they're demons. It's David Icke that says
oh God, yes.
Know your conspiracy theories, people.
I love what happens when you start like a Joe Rogan podcast with Alex Jones, and he's quite measured and calm, and then you sort of you watch it for 20 minutes, you go, this isn't the kind of meme that I was expecting, the living meme. I'll quit out. The next day the memes come out of like an hour and a half in it when he's shirtless wrestling someone on the floor, screaming about how the demons have taken over society, and you're like, damn.
But you're also like, is he wrong?
Oh God! I maintain that the most correct thing Alex Jones has ever said is subscribe to Count Dankula whilst also strangling him. So
can we talk about Labour's colossal fail, because it seems to be the thing on everyone's minds. Like I watched Sky News earlier, and Ash Sarkar was on there, and she unironically said we need to abandon these old ideologies. And
you're the one advocating for an ideology from the beginning of the 20th century, you fool.
No, from the 19th century.
Yeah, the 19th century even, yes.
But like, the guy who's, her, like, the person she's debating against, he just starts laughing. And her face is like fucking thunder.
What was it?
She looks so angry. I'll find a picture.
What was the phrase you said she used? It was like, we need to end these old ideologies.
We need to abandon these old ideologies. Something like that.
I'd love if you'd just gone, you are an old failed.
Yeah, well, he just starts laughing. He's just like, I agree, Ash.
you need to parody her, I'm literally a communist. Right? Yeah. It's just like, you're literally an old failed ideology. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
But she didn't believe in communism as such, not standard communism. She was a fan of luxury communism, if I'm not mistaken.
Fully automated luxury communism.
Yeah, I'm sure if the Soviets had thought about it, they would have marketed it that way as well.
Oh, God. It's just, fully automated. Some are equal, but some are more equal than others. Fully automated luxury communism, just because it happens to benefit people in these specific areas who work for the Kremlin, doesn't mean that, it's not for the people. Yeah. The left, I released a video today, actually, about like why I think the left generally has failed. And aside from the projection angle, I think they just don't understand the concept of cost. I think they're so disconnected from the concept of not just social fiscal cost, but also social cost, right? Because they play the shame game, right? That's the main brunt of things. But they don't understand that if you're going to have, say, a decade of austerity, which you have, then it's not going to be a period where you expect something like the NHS to get better. If that makes sense.
I don't think it's about money at all.
No,
not at all. Sorry, I'm just getting a screenshot for you because it's the funniest thing in the world, and you have to see it.
Okay.
Just look at this chap's face and look at her face. Like absolute thunder.
Let me just I'll save that and pop it up for the chat. Oh, he looks so pleased as well, doesn't he?
This is literally just just after she said, "Oh well, I think we should abandon old ideologies," and he's just like, he just laughs at her, and she looks so angry. He's like, "Yes, Ash, you are the architect of this defeat for Labour, I bet, or at least you had a very firm hand in it, in my opinion." But yeah, no, I don't think there's like this particular election. I don't think it's about money at all. I think it's about the fact that people can see that Corbyn is essentially evil. Like,
yeah,
and let me qualify this as well. I don't mean as like individually, and I don't even think like I think he thinks he's doing the right thing, but when a sort of thin old man turns up on your doorstep on top of 100 million corpses and then says, "Would you like to renationalize the rails?" Even if he wants to renationalize the rails, you don't want him to be the one to do it because there's a general stench of death around him, and he's waving a flag. He's waving flags that just so many people have died under, and he's supported every terrorist that you can think of, every socialist dictator you can think of, like all of these terrible, terrible things. And you just sat there thinking, I'm not gonna really, am I gonna put my trust in this guy? Even if everything he's saying is completely correct, like there's something really grim about Jeremy Corbyn. I think that's what, like he sees this country as essentially villainous, right? And then if you compare that to Boris Johnson, it's the total opposite. Boris like puts people in mind of like a summer stroll through the woods or playing cricket or something like that. He's got this kind of just bombastic Britishness, this kind of boorish, blundering, unaware almost, but consciously unaware sort of Britishness. It's the total opposite.
Well, to put it in terms of like my mum is a complete normie, right? She doesn't engage with politics at all.
Yeah.
And I went down to see it because it was my sister's birthday the other day, and basically she said, how do you feel the election went? Given that you cover all this stuff, she actually tuned into our stream on it, Sargon. But I was like, oh god, I hope it wasn't on some rant at the time. But she was like, I was thinking about who to support, and I don't like the Conservatives very much, but I look at Corbyn, and she did use the phrase evil, which she felt bad for using the phrase evil. But she said, like, there's no other word I can think to do it, and she can't quantify it. She can't put it into words. But I think that the vibe people get from the Labour Party, and from Corbyn in particular,
it is evil,
is evil, which is really interesting, given that they're the ones who are the left traditionally are the party of declaring what thou shalt find evil.
Yes.
At this,
but the reason I use that term, I don't use the term evil very often. I'm not a religious man. I don't, but it's the only way I can think of to describe it myself, because like it's no one thing, but when all of this stuff is packaged together, and then you've got these shiny-eyed lunatics who are promising you the earth, and there's just such a stench of decay around them, and desperation. It's just like I would go for that bumbling, sunny-faced prat any day of the week. A guy who's unafraid to just get stuck on top of a zip wire, waving two little British flags like a bloody fool. I would much rather that guy, 1,000,000 times more. It's, and I think that's the kind of the thing that hits the lizard brain of the average Brit. They're just looking at going, well, no, and well, I mean, it couldn't be any worse, could it? So because I was watching a lot of these interviews, just like man on the street interviews, and a lot of them were surprisingly optimistic about Boris as well. Give him a shot, see what happens. They actually looked like they were like thinking, well, Christ, something better might come of this. Unlike the depressing future they saw for themselves in the EU with essentially Labour governments, and even if it's not Labour, it's the philosophy, the ethos of Labour, the kind of neggy, you're not good enough, I'll fix you, that kind of thing. It's like that's the opposite opinion. No, but that's what Jeremy Corbyn's saying.
Yeah. No,
actually, the British Empire shit, Britain shit, we're racist, we're sexist, we're this, we're that, the other. But if we have a revolution and get rid of all of this, and it's like, well, I just don't agree that we're that bad. I think we're okay. Come on.
It's also like, people, as you say, it wasn't about money, but that was the first question. Like, because I went out and I talked to a load of people outside London, both in the south and the north, to do my best. It's a shame. I wish I could have recorded some of the conversations actually. And the first question was just like straight out of anyone's pocket, anyone's mouth was, I don't care what they're asking, what they're claiming that they're going to do. Like, how are they going to pay for it? And they didn't even need to be clear on any of the policies. It was just, how are they going to pay for it? And they're not going to be able to pay for it.
I think that's kind of a litmus test, though, because at the end of the day, you could say anything.
I know, but it's
You
also...
know, it's how persuasive you sound. You know, hang on. The thing is, like, you know, the average person on the street isn't some economics expert.
No.
And so if you sit there and give them a fairly convincing spiel, then they'll listen, but they're not going to know, are they? You know, so that I don't think they're expecting like to have qualifiable figures. You know,
but I don't think that the average person on the street is someone who's going to, you know, particularly be listening to any political punditry. They're not really going to be getting canvassed, even particularly. Most of them are too busy for it. And if that's just the first thing that comes into their head, then they're not going to have to deal with that then, because, you know, they've already in the Conservatives.
I mean, it doesn't help. I don't think it helps the Labour cause, the fact that, of course, a great many people remember that the last time they left, there was no more money left.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. I think that what has been underestimated is the fact that people remember why they voted the Conservatives in the first place, right? And at the period of austerity, if you look at all the graphs where just, you know, the deficit was going up and up and up and up and up, and it's now leveled off, or the debt's been going up and up and up, and now it's leveling off. You know, the idea was not that, oh, we can have Labour do this period of spend, and then we have to go through all this suffering and austerity and all this stuff and through the Conservatives, and then we can spend again, and then the deficit can go up again, and it will just cycle through. I think a lot of people recognise that.
And more so, we will then blame the Conservatives for imposing austerity as though they were doing it out of some kind of sadistic glee, and it was completely unnecessary.
Oh dear. Where do you come down on all this, MauLer?
I'm honestly not too far into it. I tend to just check out a lot of different people talking about it and then decide for myself if I think it's the apocalypse or if it's a brave new world or somewhere in between.
The number of people actually who've said to me, A Brave New World, you need to read that, not 1984, is actually an interesting...
Have you not read Brave New World?
I've not, actually, no.
You should.
It's on my list. In more light-hearted news, Scowen says, Die Hard remains a Christmas movie. NSO remains late by 4,548 seconds. MauLer is a massive long man, and Sargon is the father of 8 dinos.
You know, I will forgive him giving his constant pedantic commentary on us being late and how many seconds late we are. But Die Hard is most certainly not a Christmas movie.
How can you say that?
What is a Christmas movie? Tell me.
Well, it has, you know, it relates somehow to Christmas other than just being set at that particular time. Yeah. So it's one of those things that's supposed to make you feel all gooey inside. It isn't supposed to, involve machine guns and hand grenades.
You can have Christmas horror movies.
But what if machine guns and grenades make me feel all gooey inside? They certainly make the people on the screen go to all gooey all over the place.
Then that is your issue and not mine.
Oh, dear. What was it? You did some massive straw man about how Empire was a Christmas movie, then, didn't you? Was it, or Return of the Jedi? Somehow.
Oh, I think I basically said that. Well, in that case, Dr. Zhivago and The Empire Strikes Back are Christmas movies, essentially, really, because they have snow in them.
Yeah, but
that's very different. There's no Christmas in Star Wars' universe.
You seem to be deliberately avoiding engaging with the point, Bridger.
Well, let's put it like this. I am keeping entertained a great many people on Twitter with this particular argument.
It is controversial to say Die Hard's not a Christmas movie.
I mean, even says ho, ho, ho.
I would of course gleefully point to the fact that Bruce Willis himself is one of the most ardent, claimants in that it is not a Christmas movie.
Yeah, but
Bruce Willis can be wrong.
It's only Mark Hamill who can't be wrong.
Oh no, he can be wrong too.
I thought it was
the list of people who can be wrong is endless.
Remember the tweet about, was it like one of Trump's grandkids, was it?
What was this?
You guys know about this, right? Like, it was. I don't know how I have all the details, but he pissed off a shit ton of people because there was that family photo of like I think it was Trump's grandkids were dressed up as stormtroopers, and like
yeah, I remember
the photo that said the force is strong in our family, and then he's like, I think you mean fraud.
Jesus.
And it's like, Mark, dude, chill out. Like,
it's just like I remember that picture because. Like the amount of hate that the kids were getting, it was like, oh, raising your kids to be little Nazis, aren't you?
If it was literally just Trump dressed up as a stormtrooper, like really awkwardly, and he was like, "I got the force," they would be like, "Yeah, go for it." But Trump's not even in the picture. Like, come on, man.
No, and then what was it? Like, I think at the time it was one of those things where you imagine those kids go to school, and like the other kids are like, everyone thinks you're evil. Like, that's a really horrible thing to do to kids.
I imagine those kids go to schools where everyone on Earth thinks their parents are evil.
Oh, possibly.
All of them.
Crafted by Satan himself.
Well, again, if Trump's family are all dressed as stormtroopers, then obviously he's taking this idea of a space force more literally than we thought.
Well, it's all rolling out now, isn't it? They've started making proper gains towards the Space Force. I'm trying to think. Let me see if I can.
Man. Best timeline.
Let me see if I can find it. Let's go on.
Space Force.
Yeah.
Space Marines.
So it's going to be a sub-department of the Air Force, apparently. Let me see.
Makes sense.
Can't see. What's worse was that it was actually proposed back in 2001 and everyone laughed it off. And now it's in 2017. He actually says, we're going to do it. And now they're actually going to do it.
This is hilarious because it's actually going to put Trump as a core part of the history books.
So, yeah.
Like, who founded the police? Oh, Peel. Who founded the Space Force? Trump.
Yeah. Yeah. So
kids will have to learn about this in school.
On the 9th of December 2019, the House and Senate released the NDAA, which included the authorization for the Space Force as a full branch of the armed forces. Amazing. And they're going to have someone in the White House who's called the Commandant of the Space Corps. I love this.
If they sort of start some ships, if they actually were to build some kind of minor spacecraft, could they at least kind of name them, somewhat more sarcastically, rather than the sort of usual American way, a sort of Eagle Strike or something like that, sort of something like the USS Mueller report or something like that. Perhaps it's just me.
If we go down that road, you're going to get like the USS Miley Cyrus, all right? I don't think that's
right. Oh, God. Dear.
Careful what you wish for, British. You just might get it.
On the theme, though, of kind of, if we move from Space Force just briefly back to Christmas movies, what would your favourite Christmas movie... You just want to keep things on politics, man, don't you? What would you be your pick for your favourite Christmas movie?
It just seems relevant considering we've had such an outstanding victory, that's all.
It's true. Is
Gremlins a Christmas movie, Britisher?
Yes.
I would have to rewatch it. I think I've only seen it once, long time ago. It's more than likely rather in the field, but again, I would say it's more than likely borderline.
Okay, well, I'll wait. Go on then. I'm putting my name next to Gremlins. I like Gremlins.
Nice. MauLer?
It's tough. You got a load of good choices. Die Hard being one of the obvious choices. I love me some Jingle All the Way. I don't think it's a pretty good film.
Oh, wow.
I just think it's hilarious.
It's got to be Christmas with the Cranks, hasn't it? That's.
There's loads of suggestions, especially if you've got some powerful eggnog. You're gonna.
I've never had eggnog.
I don't think I've ever had eggnog. No.
Yeah.
Oh well.
It's one of those.
Just bring alcohol of any kind.
Is eggnog usually alcoholic? I don't know.
You know what? I don't know.
I thought it was a drink for kids. Maybe I'm going to get slated in the chat.
Oh, maybe I'm mixing it up with something else. But the point is, there's a lot of Christmas movies out there that improve when you're not sober.
People in chat saying Uncle Buck, but I've never watched.
Yeah, Uncle Buck.
Which I have been slated for in the past. But then there are many films I've been accused of not seeing, which I should have seen. Isn't that right, Britisher?
Just a tad. Just a tad.
For how storied you are when it comes to sort of your film watching, MauLer, I am the anti-MauLer when it comes to that.
Oh, we've got one of them in our community called Jay. He hasn't seen anything.
Oh, is this JXE?
Yeah, he hasn't even seen Lord of the Rings yet.
Oh, okay. At least I can claim that. Mr. Gently Benevolent says, if a 20-year-old Britisher started watching EFAP, how old would a Britisher be by the time he stopped milking his rhino? What?
I am very, very well into this. Where this is going.
I figured that was one of the easier ones, but I guess not.
I know it's a meme. I have not found the one where it's in, and I don't know what it is. I can't troll, but every stream you do is like 12 hours long, man. Where am I going to find these memes?
I don't know what you mean. All of our streams are perfectly reasonably short. We are known for that.
Your EFAP minis are 7 hours.
No, they're not. They're 3 hours.
Okay. The second part says, Sargon, I heard you were thinking of doing an election stream. Did that happen? Yes.
It did.
It did.
It was
very
trending,
good.
apparently.
You're 14th on gaming, which
Yeah.
just tells me
it
that
went up to 7th on gaming.
which just tells me you've mislabeled your stream almost on purpose. You know?
I didn't think I'd mislabeled anything.
Bloody boo.
It was as much as a surprise to me as it was to anyone else.
Hey.
But by the time I finished it, over 100,000 people had watched it. I was like, oh, fuck, man.
Yeah, which given the because the Sky News coverage and the BBC coverage only got 70,000 viewers overall.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
So,
Jesus.
Yeah.
So just a second. You actually beat the BBC on this.
Okay, I'm not trying to brag, right? But let's have a look at my social blade for the last 3 days since the election, the day after the election.
Oh dear, here we go again.
Sounds like someone's bragging.
Somebody's bragging. Oh, is this Akkad Daily or is it Sargon or is it what?
Yeah,
Which
it's
one?
my Akkad Daily.
Akkad Daily. Is that one actually monetized as well? I'm curious.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
189 uploads since, I don't know, a couple of months.
Just go down to and look at
Jesus.
like the 14th, 15th, and 16th.
So, detailed stats. 14th. Total views I've got, but not.
What?
So yeah, so the last week's
link
gone
I gave
from.
you, just scroll down on the link.
Oh,
I
sorry,
gave
dude. Sorry. Yeah, I've got the channel there. It says 1.7 million, like up to 3 million views a week. Like, yeah, 3 million views this week. It's pretty mental.
Video views for the 14th, 1.3 million views.
Yeah, 1.3 million, 896,000, and today 525,000. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
staggering.
That's staggering.
I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing right. I'm just putting up the content I want to put up, and it's like, fuck me, man. This is a nice boost. You know?
It's finally
crazy.
It's clear, apparently when your channel's not being suppressed and you actually produce good content, it seems to go places.
Well, that's the thing. I can. This is essentially proof that my other channel's being suppressed because nothing happens on it, no matter what I put up. So it's like, fuck
yeah, it's kind of depressing when you think about it that way.
It's not holding me back, though, is it?
But no, at least you're doing. Wait,
Yeah.
You found the workaround.
Yeah. Apparently, just start a new channel. Fuck it, man.
It's impossible to find out how many views MauLer's pulling in because he just deletes every stream he does.
No, I don't. They're all unlisted.
I know they all go on MauLer, but Social Blade can't read your unlisted videos.
No, it does. It deletes deleted ones, but unlisted views still count.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
Going fine over on EFAP. We're gearing up for what is essentially the equivalent of Brexit for the media world. Actually.
Oh yeah. Do
will
tell.
people like Rise of Skywalker or will they hate it? Is it going to be good or is it going to be bad?
Is it going to be woke? How woke is it going to be? Come on.
I don't even know, man. Like, honestly, from reading the leaks, it just looks incompetent.
I read the leaks the other day, and it truly does look like a staggering amount of MacGuffins. Let me put it that way.
Oh yeah, there's like 5 different ones, and ones that lead to other ones. JJ's rolling out his everything he knows, which is when you make the next one, you have to take what was in the other one but make it bigger. You have to have loads of mysterious things like a dark Sith knife that can lead you to Emperor Palpatine. Where did it come from? Who had it? Why? And we find out apparently that it's going to be the very weapon that killed Rey's parents. Oh,
Who cares? Who are they?
Oh,
Well, they were no one in the second film, but they're going to be someone in this film.
No, you were tricked by Kylo, you see. It turns out
checkmate.
Those parents were the offspring, or at least one of them was the offspring of Emperor Palpatine.
That's a genuine.
How did
plot
that
twist.
happen? What does that mean? Aren't you guys excited?
So are we going to get the line, you are my granddaughter? No!
It feels kind of weird because my channel got started thanks to TLJ, or at least,
it was Soma, man. It was me watching your Soma run through. That's the main thing.
I'm very proud of those Soma videos still.
They're pretty good. I watched Joseph Anderson's and then I found yours. That was an interesting one.
That was my first sort of foray into really try to be critical of someone else. But yeah, I was gonna say it's almost exactly 2 years since I made that first video that sort of blew up. So it feels weird. It's like here we go. This is the bookend now. This is where it all ends.
Is that the one with the decaying watermelon in the background?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that was I discovered that.
I'm almost tempted to put some kind of decaying fruit in the new one, but
you should.
Then again,
I'm loving
for the reference.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm loving the kind of the plot points, which is all the spoilers people are putting in chat, like C-3PO is going to say the N-word. Darth Jar Jar will return.
No, it's this great meme, right? So he has to translate the knife.
Okay.
Because the knife could be translated.
Oh yeah, I remember this bollocks. Yeah, go on.
And he can't do it unless he is wiped. He has to be wiped in order to be able to do it. So you're gonna have to kill C-3PO in order to get this knife translated. And we just came. Well, I think it was Jay actually who came up with the joke that he's handed the knife. It just says the N-word in a different language, and he's just like sweating. He's like, I can't translate this.
It was also like according to the leaks, they gave the stupidest reason that he can't read the knife, which is basically that he's a protocol droid who's designed to translate things, but they decided that as a droid he wasn't ready, or it was inappropriate. He had to be censored, so he had the Sith languages blocked in his memory, not removed, just blocked and censored, so that they still existed in there, but apart.
But not only is that even more ridiculous, but wasn't he made to be a domestic assistant for his mother?
Exactly.
So
are we forgetting that little Annie made C-3PO and clearly foresaw this coming, so blocked all the Sith languages?
He installed the Sith languages, of course he did.
Oh god.
Fucking useless.
I love there's an Adult Swim clip of Darth Vader when he cuts Luke's hand off in the middle of Cloud City. And he say, I am your father, and then he just starts listing off all these other spoilers, like Leia is your sister, the Empire will be defeated by Ewoks, that sort of thing. And he's going, this sounds more ridiculous the more you say. It's just like, if you're not going to take this seriously, man, I'm out of here. People have been pointing out how low quality the MacGuffin dagger looks as well.
Yeah, it looks.
It looks like a
picture.
Yeah.
What's it called? Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, and it's like this little plastic daggery thing, which looks. It's clear that it's going to be a toy marketed to kids after the film, right?
Oh yeah.
But people have been saying, this looks like some kind of Sith vibrator.
It looks like a Klingon weapon from Star Trek.
Or like
a shitty plastic, TV serial sort of fucking dagger that the Klingons would have had in Star Trek.
I just posted that you got this weird, what looks to be some form of partial ruler attached to the bottom of it.
It's actually a set square, a Sith set square.
Yeah,
it's such an ugly ass dagger.
Let me just get it out for the chat. Yeah,
and it looks incredibly impractical, and I can't wait to see a horrible flashback where Rey's parents are struck down by this dagger. It'd be great.
Oh god, yeah, it's I mean, I can't. In a way, I can't fault JJ for making some of the decisions, given how much the second film was fucked up by Rian Johnson.
I don't think any of them are forgivable or in any way redeemable, to be honest.
It's like he walked into a room where all the tables and chairs are thrown about, all the food's all over the floor, and he just opens up a big old fire hydrant of shit all over the room, as being like, "Well, I had no choice anyway. Fuck it." It's like, oh, you could have cleaned the room up, but okay.
I can't say I'm a fan of any of the new films, the new sequels, whatever it is. I've never been. I hear you've softened towards The Force Awakens some. MauLer.
Oh, do you mean hardened? Like, I went from being okay with it, sort of, to now being like, yeah, it's actually pretty awful.
Oh, good. I remember sitting through the second one, The Last Jedi, and, well, aside from the fact that I stopped counting at 25 plot holes, the only reason I went to see the film was because my mate was like, come on, it'll be a laugh.
Counting plot holes. Do you know you're watching movies wrong if you do that?
I was watching the film, but like it was so blatant and brazen. I wasn't trying to analyze the film. It was just, what the fuck is going on here? Why have they done this? What's going on there? Why have they chosen to do this? And then Canto Bite happened. And it was just like my
that
head
space
was
chase. There's like 1,000 reasons why that space chase makes no sense at all.
Yeah. And I was just, my head was in my hands by the end, and I was like, this is one of the worst films I've ever seen. I never thought I'd consider walking out of a Star Wars film. And
it's held as one of the greatest masterpieces of the modern age by many people.
It subverted our expectations, yes it did.
Well, see, that's why you didn't like it. It's just, it didn't do what you wanted it to, okay?
It didn't remain logically consistent, you mean? Yes, you're right.
No, it did. You just didn't understand it. That's what it was.
No, if I'd been smarter...
Yeah, there you
go. Let me see. Yeah, people are looking at the Wayfinder and just going, did they it's like they've taken a Star Destroyer and they've just sort of cut bits out the side of it and decided that that's the shape they're looking for. You wonder at what point it will be used as some kind of force key, like later in the film.
This is going to be one of those movies where I absolutely have to go through it slowly in order to catch everything. This is going to be a clusterfuck of craziness.
I look forward to 2030 when your first part of your breakdown comes out after you finish TFA and the Last Jedi.
I've told like family members like I'll definitely hang out for Christmas and stuff, but I'm gonna be busy. Like, every other moment that I can't hang out, I'm just gonna be writing and editing. Because this movie needs to be destroyed if the leaks are to be believed.
Yeah.
We literally got Rey is going to defeat Palpatine. Like, this is sad.
Oh, yeah. Isn't it something like Rey and Kylo were like the two main embodiments of the Force, the dyad or something like that?
That has been since removed because it was tested and audiences were confused as hell.
Unsurprising. Like when
I just don't know why they've introduced like Force dyad. It's like, what is that?
Here's the Force dyad. Here's Force heal. And then also, like, apparently, like, presumably Force Life Steal, if the leaks are anything to go by.
And Force Life Give.
Oh, yes.
Kylo is going to kiss Rey to life, apparently, in this movie.
And
see, all the things I've been saying in the past, like, half hour, it just sounds like nonsense. But it's like, no, this is real.
Yeah.
I thought sort of... powerful male figures kissing girls to life was no longer permissible in stories.
Well, that's why I
thought Disney were moving away from that.
That's why they've made Kylo the weakest male they possibly can.
Well, he fights Rey like 7 times in the trailer. It's like, didn't you lose to her twice already?
I don't think he's won a single time. There's no time where he's come out on top. Which is, again, like, if you think about the progression of Vader in the OT... And it's just like Vader. Like at least the games appear to be getting the villains right with Vader. Like,
hang on. So what you're saying is that Rey is actually Darth Vader,
pretty much,
and Kylo is the hero that we're rooting for.
They're subverting our expectations even more. Although,
actually, it's a lot more Jokerish if you look at it that way, isn't it? It's like this young lad's been
he's Darth Incel.
Yeah, Darth Incel. Yeah, like because he doesn't, he's confused and angry, and he needs to overcome the demon, which is apparently a woman who can never do anything wrong.
Well, instead of going into the underworld to save his father, he has done a reverse of the hero's journey by murdering him.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying he's a good guy or anything.
No.
It's just funny. He's committed to being evil several times. but like people
it
are still
could
like,
be-
no.
It could always be a classic tale of redemption, couldn't it?
Well, that's what I guarantee you. By the end of this film, people will be like, "Kylo was a hero after all," and you'll be like, "Oh."
Or it could be
Kylo was
simply
always
that-
the hero.
It could be that the entirety of the writing staff is female, and it's just like one of those abusive relationships where it's like, it's okay, I can fix him.
Worse than leftists, mate. So, yeah.
Oh dear.
Also, Dominic said, didn't he capture her in the first movie? He did, and then she broke herself out after she defeated him in a mind reading duel, and she didn't even know what the Force was,
and learned how to mind trick stormtroopers as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was all very, very fun to watch. How she
it was made a cheap laugh.
It.
It was made a cheap laugh, just like this thing which, you know, even Luke couldn't do by the end of the OT. He had to go away to study more. It was just like, what's going on?
Well, Luke wasn't a Mary Sue.
You don't see. I mean,
many people will
that's
make
his
that
first
argument.
mistake, is what I mean.
Yeah.
So
Luke
many
was
people
smart,
make that
you know.
argument.
There's no like
What,
she's
Luke's a Mary Sue.
Sargon, he shot a gun several times and killed loads of people. He piloted his X-wing to destroy the Death Star.
He gets punted all the time.
No.
Like Yoda is busy like standing on his ass while he's making do a backhand upside down press ups. He gets his hand cut off.
Yeah, Rey like gets captured by Kylo that one time. So.
Oh, well, I mean that is basically the same. I agree. Yeah.
It's just funny because it leads
can-
to the victory of the film. She breaks out, and the reason that Han is even there is to save her. And then once she breaks herself out, they decide, "Oh, let's destroy this base." Damn it,
Luke, it's just like Luke and Rey can both speak to droids without learning their languages. So yeah, they're basically the same, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, they both did that. Even
How
though
does she speak
reasoning.
Wookiee? How does
she
fucking
speak-
Didn't you guys didn't see all the Wookiees on what's the planet?
What, the desert
not
planet?
Tatooine.
Jakku.
Yeah, all those big old hair Jakku. That's it. Even though the Wookiees were like exterminated by prequel era Empire
or enslaved.
Even though I don't
Yeah, or
believe
it's
that
like-
giant hairy Wookiees would exist on a desert planet.
it doesn't even matter if there was one Wookiee there or not. Why the hell would you learn that specific language?
Why would you be racist against the Sargon? Why would you be racist against the Sand Wookiees?
I put all
yeah.
my points in Ewok, man. What do you want?
The secret identity of the
imagine
Jawas was they're actually Wookiees underneath those little tiny cloaks.
Let's just assume she can speak all languages, okay?
I do, actually.
There was
It's totally reasonable that would be the case.
I think someone put up a meme.
Well, women are supposed to be better with languages.
There you go. There you go. It's science.
Checkmate.
Apparently, once you learn 4, it's very easy to learn all the rest. But it's just a matter of time.
Or if you learn 4 very similar languages.
I don't know. I don't know 4
This
languages.
needs to be
I can't
tested
speak.
in a vacuum.
Uh,
Let's grow
in a
4
vacuum?
humans and do this.
But
Yes.
after 45 seconds in a vacuum, don't you go unconscious?
No. I've heard that apparently you can last as much as several minutes, and the Leia survived because that's how reality works. Okay.
You can't save yourself.
We covered. That's one of the recent things. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but we covered this new TLJ video that apparently explains how good the film is. It took us 6 hours because it was a half-hour video, so naturally it would take 6 hours to cover it. Just like, that's how long it takes everyone. It's fine. But he has this portion where he's like, people think that she should have died when they don't realize that she could absolutely survive, and he puts like quotes on the screen of like how it'll take a couple minutes to absolutely die. And that just all this other stuff. Then we checked out the article specifically, and it was like after like 30 or 40 seconds or whatever, you will lose consciousness and you will not be able to regain it yourself because the oxygen has left your body.
And this isn't
It
even
can't go to the brain.
It wasn't even simulating the temperature, was it? It was just.
Well, no, that's the thing. It says like in a vacuum with a monkey, I think, and it's like, okay, so a vacuum and space are 2 different things. It's not just one to one. You missed out on the heat, the cold, and the radiation, I would imagine, from all kinds of different sources in space. There's just loads to it. And then people are like, oh, she put a force shield around herself. It's like, what?
Of course she fucking
But we
did.
didn't see that, did we?
She wasn't even awake.
If they had the opportunity to make a spectacle of her putting a force shield around herself at the last minute with the size of that effects budget, they would have done it. I'm sorry, they would have. I also thought, given that Carrie Fisher died, that was a perfect moment for them to kill her off, but no, it didn't, did they?
Yeah, a lot of people
Bizarre
felt
that
way,
she's
but
the
no.
only one of the originals that survive, isn't it?
And she's
Like,
living
the dead person.
further on than you'd think. She's going to be like a full-on character in this new movie. Lots of new
So just a
scenes.
second.
That's so
Carrie
creepy.
Fisher, so Princess Leia is still going to be in this film that is to come.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's in a lot of the trailer, or at least you see her a bunch.
You see, I'm not all too up to speed on this. I've not seen any of these new movies. I have no interest in them. I've also not seen this trailer. But so basically, a character that is played by a dead actress is in the new release.
Yeah, because they recorded enough footage with her before
They have
release.
a shot of her and Rey hugging while Rey cries.
I imagine some of it's CGI'd in there as well.
Yeah.
Lots of manipulation, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bizarre thing. I imagine she'll stick around just long enough to declare that the institution of marriage was a sham. She'd never been happier than when she was separated from Han, and then she'll go on to
Jesus, that's
transcend
pessimistic.
into the Force without dying. But like Ben Kenobi-esque, like I'm going to become more powerful, and then she'll come back down at the end. They'll be confused by the idea of Kylo and Rey defeating Palpatine, but no, the Force ghost of Leia will come in and lightning like Yoda did in the Last Jedi.
I think you're going completely awry here. I think with the plan being that Rey kills the Emperor, and obviously the career path is then opened up for Princess Leia to become the new Empress. So that a woman would be running the universe. Surely that's the way it ought to be.
Didn't you propose that as like an actual viable, decent alternative to the story that is actually playing out now, MauLer?
I don't know what wouldn't be a viable alternative compared to what we're expecting here. Like, they've, in one of the leaks that have now been scrapped again because of reshoots of just the horror of the audience being like, what the hell? Like, Rey is getting defeated by Palpatine, and then the ghosts of Luke and Leia help fight him with her.
Oh, God.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine them doing exactly that, actually.
Liberal Zardos in chat has pointed out that Britisher, they have tastefully made her corpse fully animatronic. And apparently there's going to be...
I didn't know taxidermy was that far advanced.
Well, you do. There's always one. Apparently there's also a Han Solo Force ghost that may make an appearance. But,
yeah, everyone's very concerned about that. This is the funny bit, right? So, according to the leaks, I think either Rey is like sequestered onto Arc 2 at one point in the movie, and she's upset that the ghost of Leia doesn't come to visit her. And Luke explains that she hasn't yet completed her training on understanding how to be a Force ghost, which apparently you do post being alive.
Right.
But Han Solo did.
What?
Han Solo, the guy who thought the Force was a bunch of bullshit, is
like,
able to.
The whole point is that he's a foil, but he's also like a relatable character in the sense of, he's the smuggler, but he's also charming and charismatic, and he has no special powers, but he gets by anyway. Like, that's part of his charm.
So just let me get this straight. Han Solo becomes a Jedi after he dies.
No, just Force Ghosts. You don't have to be a Jedi to have Force Ghosts. It makes total. It's fine. It's fine. He read a book about Force Ghosts. He was like, "Oh, neat, I'll do that."
I don't even believe that. Maybe like. So what's the relationship between Princess Leia and Rey? Because I'm watching the trailer now and like they're hugging and stuff, and I'm just like, why?
Yeah, we'll find out in this movie.
Right, so they literally don't have one prior to this, is what I mean.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Basically
They did
friends.
hug. They hugged in Force Awakens.
Oh wow!
Yeah, they're best friends within about 10 minutes of knowing each other.
Yeah,
and this is something that even JJ said was a fuck up. They have, if you remember in TF8, Leia shrugs past Chewie to hug Rey because Han died.
Yeah, I'm just like, why?
Exactly why? Because she's a self-insert. She's supposed to be the character that all of the audience feel that they are. And if you're the audience, you watch Han Solo, one of your favorite characters of all time, die, you'd want to hug Leia. And then you come out for a second like, wait, this makes no sense at all.
Yeah,
why would Leia do that? I feel so bad for Chewie, man.
None of this makes any fucking sense.
He's been relegated to a chauffeur. Like, stay with the Falcon.
Yeah, but don't feel bad. He was a cannibal. Well, not even a cannibal. He used to eat people, okay?
What, Chewie?
He spent decades in a bloody underground pit eating humans. I don't feel sorry for him.
Well, I mean, you got to do what you got to do to survive, right?
Yeah.
Right,
Just more.
Well,
more,
I mean,
more, it's more bigotry against the Sand Wookiees, is what I can
Look,
say.
all
Yeah,
it
if
took
you were
is for
locked in a
someone.
pit,
No.
you would eat
He did
people.
it out of bigotry. Like the first person who came along who spoke Wookiee, he didn't eat.
Is
Like,
this
total bigot.
Has this been retconned through the Solo
The Solo
movie?
movie, yeah.
Oh, this is what I gave up on. I didn't go watch that one.
But
Well,
talking about
you
retcons,
didn't miss anything. I mean, like,
in relation to the Solo movie, you remember Last Jedi came out first, right? So you have that scene where Luke hands the dice to Leia as a sort of like, oh, it's a memento of Han. How sweet. Oh, you know.
Oh, right, yeah.
What's a Solo movie? And it's basically the trinket that represents the bond between Han Solo and Kira, his ex-girlfriend. And it's like, oh, Jesus, don't do that. And I just love the idea that Luke had no idea, and Leia sees it, and she's like, what the fuck, dude? Really?
This is the thing that broke our marriage apart, perhaps. You know?
And he's like, oh, shit, I just thought it was like a thing. Oh,
go
sorry.
kiss your fucking brother, bitch. Honestly.
I force projected all the way here, and you're complaining about some dice. Okay.
Were they the actual dice, though? Was it not just like some rocks that he projected to
They
make
were
look
ghost
like
dice.
the dice?
They were ghost dice. It makes.
Sorry, can I ask, what does force projected mean? So is this yet again a dead person?
Well, no.
You like make yourself appear in a different place than you actually are, but it'll kill you to do so, and you could have just gone there yourself.
Unless you happen to be
An idiot.
What's his face? Like Snoke or something.
Oh right, yeah, Snoke can
Good
do it without
point,
dying.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
just OP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Star Wars is
Okay,
a
so they can
disaster
kind
right
of do almost like the Star Trek thing with the beam me up, just they can do it with the force.
now.
So why did they bother with spaceships in the earlier movies?
Just think it, because it kills you apparently, unless you're ridiculously powerful but can get killed by misreading someone's mind.
that bit is so
This makes
cheesy.
complete sense.
Thank
Yes,
you,
yes,
no danger.
Thank you for that clarification.
Think of it
Yes.
as forced Skype call, right? Like that's about.
Well, no, I just recall that in the first three movies and whatever, people like the Emperor and Darth Vader and whatever used spaceships. Now, if you can be incredibly powerful, as you say, and therefore force project, and it doesn't do you any harm because you're so terribly powerful, why would you use spaceships?
Because you're not actually there. You might actually need to be there.
Oh well, I mean, that
Though
explains
kind of
it
falls
all.
apart when you find out in the new movie you can teleport things through this thing. So like,
Oh God, imagine.
you can
Oh no, because
send objects through this force projection thing, so you can actually.
So
have them
effectively, the
inside.
dagger could be anywhere in the universe, and then could be handy in the right place at the right moment.
you just need to force pull it hard enough, Britisher. That's what it is.
Can we just cancel Hollywood at this point?
Did you?
Like, I'm really sick of it. I just can't stand anything they make anymore.
Wasn't there? Yeah. Go on.
And that's why Joker was such a surprise. It was just like, holy shit.
I
This
love.
isn't
I love that
trash.
the director was basically just like, yeah, the reason I've made this is because you can't make anything in Hollywood anymore that pushes any boundaries whatsoever.
Yeah.
I haven't actually seen Joker yet. It's like
Oh
on
my God.
It's on my list, but I've just been
Good
so
shit.
busy, man. So busy. What did you say, MauLer?
It's good shit. It's
Oh,
refreshing.
I thought you told me to
Yeah.
eat. I thought you told me to eat shit. I was like, thanks.
Although
man.
that should have been the next thing.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say that that's not implied with the message if you haven't seen it already. You disgust me, but it's fine.
Oh dear. People in chat, like Mirror J says, "Stop thinking so much. Just turn off brain. Enjoy the lights and colours."
Yay.
It was like, oh, it's a very pretty film, but does it make sense? No. Jaws the Great and Powerful Britisher. Do you get this? Do you understand this one, right? Says, drops down behind the Britisher. Hello there.
You get that, right?
Please tell me you get that.
Of course, I don't.
No! God.
It's nothing personal.
And like,
for sure.
if nothing else, at least the prequel films gave us some really good memes. I do not see decent memes coming from like this new sequel trilogy. The only meme that appears to have arisen is like from The Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and if ever there was a meme from like the sequels where the sequels were like, "Yay, we got memes too," it's like we're really not laughing with you. Like,
They'll become the I can't wait till the left adopts them, because if the left can't meme and they use The Last Jedi, the new sequel trilogy to meme at us. It's just going to be like, oh, guess where the NPCs are.
Surely somebody is going to sort of put a Trump head on the Emperor while he's being stabbed to death by powerful Rey, surely.
Oh, yes.
Or Kathy Griffith. Yeah, it's only a matter of time, probably, Brisha.
Oh, dear. Have you heard that the new candidates actually for the Labour Party are all women? Just as an aside.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Labour finally, after all of the other parties doing it, getting a woman head of the party.
Let me see if I can find because I tried to click the...
Well, I believe Neil Kinnock's son has come out and said that he is not standing for the leadership, but it should be a woman.
Yeah.
And it's just a strange thing to say. I mean...
No, it should be a woman, Brisha.
You might as well just come out and say, well, it should be someone who's left-handed.
Yeah.
I know
left-handed women.
I know that of any woman who's going to go for it, it's not going to be Emily Thornberry anymore.
Oh, your stupid voters. Like, I love how I'm going to sue. It's like, yeah, you better, because to be honest with you, that makes you look fucking abysmal.
For those of you who don't know, Emily Thornberry said to another Labour MP...
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yes.
She I can't remember
to
the
protect
name.
yourself from Emily Thornberry's lawyers. Because...
She basically said, because her constituency voted leave, all of her
those
constituents
fucking northern monkeys.
were idiots, yeah. I don't think she used the phrase northern monkeys. But
well,
yes.
I mean, this is just speculation. I wasn't there at the time.
Yes. I mean, you wouldn't even be there, Sargon. They won't have you.
I'd love to have been there, Jesus.
Mind you, it also has the flavour of a political takedown, doesn't it? As in, I wish to prevent this particular person from becoming Labour leader. Because why else would one say such a thing?
I do believe that they would say something like that.
Do you still maintain that Corbyn's not actually going to step down in all this Labour...
Has he stepped down yet?
Not yet.
Yeah, exactly. Literally the worst defeat since 1935, and Corbyn is still the fucking leader. Unreal. He should have been bodied out, man.
Yeah.
Well,
he should have apologised.
It would be irresponsible for him to leave immediately. I mean, he needs to oversee a transition, don't you understand?
Dude, I want you to oversee the transition to the next fucking election, Corbyn. Imagine what Boris is going to say next time they're in Parliament, like tomorrow or whenever it is.
And you see, he can't leave immediately because they don't have a deputy.
Like, someone get Geoffrey Cox up there to shame Corbyn in the middle of Parliament. This opposition leader is a disgrace. It'd be gorgeous. It'd be amazing.
So apparently the candidates are Rebecca Long Bailey, which is basically John McDonnell in a skirt. Right?
Comrade.
This is the way she's described by The Guardian. A close ally of the Shadow Chancellor, John McDonnell. God. Long Bailey has long been groomed as a potential left-wing contender for the top job. She's from Salford, apparently.
Does it use the term stench of death? Because I think it should.
She, she wants to... She was forced to tackle tough questions over the desire for a green jobs revolution and softening Labour's stance on hitting net zero carbon emissions. Soften? They said, we're going to be carbon neutral by 2030 instead of 2025, because even we realise that 2025 is fucking insane. Right? Then we got Emily Thornberry. Here's the only bloke. We got Keir Starmer, who I've never heard of before.
He's definitely Mr. We need to stay in the EU, and if we leave the EU, we definitely must be in the single market in the customs union.
Yeah,
this is definitely somebody who will fly very well in those northern constituencies and has just told them to get lost because of Brexit.
Yes. Funnily enough, his most ardent opposition comes from Darth McDonnell himself. Who for some reason is calling for the next Labour leader to be a woman. I don't understand why, when he's literally groomed his apprentice to stand in for the job.
Well, I mean, it is remarkable, isn't it, that the leader should also stay in place, giving himself every opportunity to help the groomed person rise to sufficient prominence to have an advantage.
Oh, God.
The thing is, no, seriously, think about it. The Labour Party is literally the only party in the country that hasn't had a female leader. Even the Brexit Party has had a female leader.
I was actually looking at the stats on this, and it's not just that they haven't had a female leader, right? They pushed up artificially through all-women shortlists their sort of female MPs.
Talking about you, Jess Phillips.
And we'll get onto her. And then you actually look at the leadership elections since they've been following this policy, and how many of the women actually put themselves forward for the leadership. Even just to be shortlisted for leadership. Right. I think in every leadership election up to 2010, it was like 2 people, and one of those people was Diane Abbott. Like every time.
I would vote for Diane Abbott.
Phenomenal.
To be the leader of the Labour Party.
To put both your left feet forward, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that one?
Yeah, it's just such gold. How is it she ends up with 2 left feet on the fucking day of voting?
Well, rumour had it that was Photoshop.
No. It wasn't.
I saw it from multiple angles.
People were
it was on her own Twitter feed.
It was not. It was on the Twitter feed of her ally for the day. Sorry. And what ended up happening was people said it was Photoshopped because more photos emerged of her wearing correct footwear. Turns out they were trying to do damage control, and one of the aides had to run home to her house to get the correct shoe to bring it back so that she could put on the right-hand shoe. Yeah.
Oh, this is why I don't hate Diane Abbott. She's incompetent.
She's got magnanimous personality, and
she does.
She's just. And she
particularly
might think she's
a rabbi in her constituency who criticises her.
Oh, why? What happened there?
Oh, there was, because of the anti-Semitism thing, she kind of spoke out because she's got I think she's got the largest Jewish community in Britain in her constituency.
Okay, yeah.
And therefore she kind of, gave one of these comments whereby, oh, well, I haven't been, I don't seem to have heard anything from any members of the Jewish community in my constituency to indicate that they are in any way as worried about anti-Semitism in the Labour Party as some of these Jewish organisations claim to be. At which point this rabbi spoke up and said, this woman doesn't know what she's talking about.
Yeah, but that's a sentence that could literally apply to everything that Diana has ever said.
Yes.
At some point, a rabbi stands up because this woman just doesn't know what she's
within
talking
days, then posters started appearing, plastered on things like lampposts and walls and whatever in the constituency, attacking said rabbi.
Oh, really? Wow, amazing.
And, actually written in Hebrew. And apparently there were some things, said in that, and I mean, I don't speak Hebrew, in which, the rabbi said that some of these things could be interpreted to be a threat. And it's just remarkable as far as I'm concerned, not, whether this is being spun, whether it's a threat or not, but here is a seat that is a massive Labour majority. It's an utterly safe seat. And yet anybody dares to criticise the woman, and immediately there will be a personal attack campaign launched against said person. And as far as I'm concerned, that says quite a bit.
Well, all I'm saying is Momentum have done nothing wrong, British.
Apart from throwing bricks through the windows of dissenters.
Yeah, well, no, I have to say that because otherwise I get my house bricked.
Oh, yes, in Swindon.
What is that photo that you've just put up?
Yes, so if you look in Stream Chat, you'll find a picture of the moment that Boris found out the Conservatives won. He's obviously got...
So is this the moment he heard that they had a majority, so they'd reached 326?
Yeah. So this is with an angle...
You do know which constituency gave him 326, don't you?
Go on.
Bolsover.
I'm afraid you're going to need to...
Dennis Skinner's constituency, the Beast of Bolsover. That was the constituency that gave them 326.
Skinner had held it for 49 years.
Amazing.
Yeah, he had been there since June 1970.
This is fucking long.
This is Dominic Cummings next to him, obviously, and he's wearing his T-shirt inside out, which is apparently for good luck. But it's a good picture.
See, that's the excuse Diane Abbott should have gone with. Oh, no, I wear two left shoes for good luck.
On the day of election, even though it's a new tradition, It's one I'm forming this year.
I expect it to catch on.
It certainly will when you're only allocated one shoe by the government. Captain Smith says, I know this is Fake Accents Unite, but can I get some more of MauLer's real Welsh accent?
It's not necessarily my real accent, it's just me accentuating a Welsh accent, because I do all kinds of accents, because I'm
do you
big
fully,
old voice acting person.
Is this a full affectation? Is your actual accent at home completely different?
Nope, this is how I speak all the time. But my voice has changed over the time of doing more public speaking regularly over the years. I've just tried to improve enunciation and slow down the speed. The Welsh speak very fast.
Ah, fair enough. The Sitskoen saying, it's meant to make you feel gooey inside. It does. It's going back a little bit there. Cheers. Mr. Gently Benevolent says, how does one sign up for Trump's Astartes program? Also, hi Muesli, is your doggo recovering from his monthly thrust, and Die Hard is a Christmas movie? You're gonna have to explain the monthly thrust, man.
Well,
is that a Rags reference?
There is a channel called Downward Thrust. He has a Patreon, and he releases a monthly thrust for anybody who's, I guess, a patron of his. But he disappeared recently, for 4 months, and Rags signed up, and he didn't get his monthly thrust. What can I say?
Oh, very disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine he's utilizing the meme core for many inappropriate for Twitter NSFW memes about that.
I don't know what you mean.
Of course not. British Knight says, Trump has brought peace, freedom, justice and security to his new representative federal republic. Please tell me you understand this.
I don't know that Obi-Wan would agree with that.
Possibly. Some actual information here. Pyrrhus of Epirus says, US ships are named after states' presidents, or so. British ships are named after nonsense like Bounty or Queen Mary's bum or George's phallus.
Boaty McBoatface.
Boaty McBoatface.
Checkmate, Americans.
Didn't Boaty McBoatface end up being the name of the dinghy in the end because it became the Sir Richard Attenborough or something?
Yes, it was something like that. Yeah, they chickened out.
So they've got no sense of humour.
Pussies. That's what it is. Anonym says, best Christmas film is Dr. Snow or Die Another Sleigh. Okay, whatever those are. Greed the Avaricious. Have you seen Academic Agent's tweets about Dominic Cummings? Makes me very happy and eager to see his reform proposals, especially the Ministry of Defence and Home Office.
I saw an article written in The Guardian earlier today by the secret civil servant or whatever it is, some anonymous civil servant.
After
but
was it this? Yeah.
Yeah, but the thrust of the article was just, we're really scared that Dominic Cummings is going to burst in on Monday with a hatchet and start hacking parts off of us. And I'm like, go on.
Tell me more about your fears, little boy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we were talking about the Labour leadership election, weren't we? So there's only two real contenders left. I mean, so you've got Angela Rayner, who's the Shadow Education Secretary, who's basically John McDonnell's second choice after Long Bailey.
Yeah.
You got Jess Phillips.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read you? Do you want me to read you her fiery description?
Yeah,
ready?
yeah.
The MP for Birmingham Yardley is a strong media performer who has built up a significant public profile from the backbenches. Her fiery speeches and witty barbs aimed at the Conservatives, including the PM, frequently go viral online. She is considered a passionate advocate for her constituency and issues on the ground therein. Corbyn supporting Labour members are likely to be deeply suspicious of her, as she's
she's going to knife him in the front. Come on, Jess, we're all waiting. By the way,
as she has been frequently critical of his leadership, threatened to stab a bitch, and the party's approach to anti-Semitism. Hasn't formally announced her candidacy yet, but wrote a piece for The Observer, which many view as the start of her leadership bid. So there you go.
So who wrote that blurb about her?
This is The Guardian.
The Guardian.
Yeah.
Okay. Would I be right, Sargon, in assuming that all your dreams would come true if Jess Phillips became the Labour leader?
Yeah. I think it's the best thing that could happen to my channel.
You would get quite
yeah.
frequent mentions at prime ministerial press conferences, wouldn't you?
Excellent. Yeah, I love the fact that a PM would bring me up if she won.
And personally, I would then
lift the Prime
advise
Minister's head.
in such a case, I would advise Boris Johnson as the Prime Minister to begin every answer to her at Prime Minister's question time with the words, "I wouldn't even."
I would just like to say I wouldn't even debate you. I don't think it's worth the time.
I wouldn't even contradict you on this point.
just needling. And now we have announced the new conservative aide, Carl Benjamin. I'm a speechwriter now, Jess. How do you feel about that? Yeah.
The new Sergeant at Arms, Carl Benjamin.
Yeah, that sounds better.
Leader of the House, Carl Benjamin.
Seriously though, I mean, like, they actually could do worse than Jess Phillips. To be fair,
she's not Corbyn.
She's not. She's an insufferable bitch, but she's not Corbyn.
I would take her over like anyone who is being endorsed by John McDonnell.
John McDonnell, yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well, that's the thing. Like, Jess Phillips, she's a lot of things, but I don't think she actually hates the country. I think she hates the Tories, but I don't think she hates the country, and that's
give her time.
Yeah, I'm not saying that she's perfect. All right, I'm just saying better than Corbyn.
It's not a high bar to set.
No, it's a fucking
but it's a bar which has to be met.
Yeah.
Other people include Lisa Nandy, who's the Wigan MP. I'd never heard of her before.
No.
She's a soft left candidate, apparently. She will be viewed with suspicion from Corbyn's supporters.
Yeah, she's going to get shanked, right? Okay.
And finally, Yvette Cooper. Yvette Cooper ran against Corbyn for the leadership in 2015 and is viewed as a centrist.
Well, she's really a Blairite. She would be. I mean, she would have won that. She was clearly the front runner in that last leadership election.
Mm-hmm.
Until obviously, some people thought they had to lend Corbyn their vote because he didn't actually have the necessary votes to become part of the leadership race. Right. But one wanted to give him, to lend him some votes in order to allow the left a chance in the race. And, well, the rest is history.
Did she step down then in order to give him a...
No, he just suddenly, he suddenly surged in this race. And as I say, he had no parliamentary support. I mean, if you remember, I think twice he ran into the problem in not having sufficient numbers to actually fill his front bench because nobody wanted to work with him.
Yeah.
All that terrorist sympathising he did throughout his career.
I mean, I would go through the list, but it would take another hour. Like, the amount of things that he has done, which are, one would consider uncouth, even in politics.
But it's also worth mentioning that Yvette Cooper, I think she played a role in the first Apocalypse, because she is the head of the Home Affairs Committee.
Correct.
And she also, you remember there was the Cooper Bill. She was one of the MPs that was doing her best to sabotage the progress of Brexit through the House of Commons. And she was, of course, in a constituency that was almost 70% pro-Brexit. And she did retain her seat, but I think she took over 20% losses. So I'm not even sure how safe her seat is, given the majority she now has. So, yeah, as track records go, let's say it's mixed when it comes to Yvette Cooper.
She's cancer. She's a radical feminist lunatic.
Do you know the Spectator has endorsed David Lammy?
Yes! Yes! Oh, God, yes! Oh, yes. I want a Lammy leader of the Labour Party, leader of the opposition.
David,
phenomenal. Tell me about the racism in your head. Tell everyone. David.
Tell everyone about the lack of police officers right under your nose.
What was
Tell
that
everyone
line
who Henry VIII.
What was that line again in the Fast Show? The copper that always stands outside 10 Downing Street could always lean across when he comes down the street and go, "You ain't seen me, right?"
Nice. What was I saying? Where was I? Just gonna catch up with things. Yes. Thomas Duplessis says, "Hello, my N-words. Thoughts on the state of South Africa? Our infrastructure is collapsing and corruption is leading us to national bankruptcy. Help!"
Dude, what do you think's happening here?
I think that we've just had the most phenomenal Conservative win for a long time. The Labour Party is at its weakest since 35.
Because everything's falling apart.
Yeah. I'm trying to maintain the optimism, man, after everything.
Yeah, no, shit's
South...
bad.
I don't know how South Africa can do it. I don't think there's actually anything that Britain can do to save South Africa without them literally claiming that we're supporting a second apartheid.
Well, if you remember rightly, there is that runner. I'm trying to remember the name. Who basically is something. Someone who's basically born with both sexes.
An intersex runner. Okay.
Yeah, and therefore basically towers over all the women, and wins all the medals until recently. One has then basically said, okay, she will have to take hormones. And when basically the International Athletics Federation started looking into this case, immediately the South African Sports Board started saying, this is racism, this is colonialism, this is, and you sort of look at this and you just go, if that is just the basic attitude towards something as simple as that, can you imagine whether they would, if there were any kind of international involvement regarding, yes, what is going on in South Africa regarding corruption? Yes, I mean, it boggles the mind.
There's going to be a genocide in South Africa, like a full-on.
I mean, it's going on, man. Like,
I know. But you know what I mean. Like, there will be an actual coordinated genocide in South Africa.
I have friends who are escaping at the moment. I mean, I know, like, there's also all the stuff from Lauren Southern and so on and so forth, which was talking about, what's the name of it? Like the Sweetlanders or whatever it is. I can't pronounce it correctly. But
Afrikaners.
No, there's like an African like self-defense group, which is like establishing refugee routes and teaching farmers how to defend themselves if they don't know already,
right.
Stuff like that. One of my friends, she lived in Durban, and they were like, well, they started robbing our house every week, and then they basically started telling us that they were going to kill us, and then we had to escape, and that was that.
Yeah.
And the reasons given are purely racial. It's purely racial. I thought it's one of those things where it's like one of those unnamed genocides that they'll find out about sort of a couple of years after it's happened, even though people have been shouting about it whilst it's going on.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like a lot of the people there are quite fortunately able to escape, but a lot of people have obviously got family ties to the land and so on, and they're not going to leave. So it's also going to be one of those things where it could be a lot worse, but I think just because the majority of people being targeted and attacked are not they're quite affluent. They're not particularly poor.
Mm-hmm.
Although interestingly, there's they have this thing down in South Africa called Zef. Do you know Zef?
No.
It's like a kind of gang culture, which a lot of I say a lot. Some of the whites have adopted basically down there, and it's kind of characterized by not giving a fuck about everything, rejecting materialism, but also some weird stuff in there. Like a lot of them are vegan and stuff like that.
Okay.
And I think that's the only group which isn't really being targeted because they've seemed to kind of like spit on their old kind of the affluent white ways and that sort of thing. It's a really weird situation, and I do think relatively commonly on like if there's anything that can be done, but I genuinely don't know what can be done. And also I feel like we're moving now more again into the spirit of kind of when the empires were well set up, sort of globally, and the borders were relatively well defined, and this idea of kind of if there's something bad going on in another country, you don't feel like you have a responsibility to go in and step in and try and change things, because we're still smarting from kind of a lot of the stuff in the Middle East, I would say. Oh, wait, I'm sorry I brought the mood down there, guys. But
but then again, I mean, has one sort of generally sort of way somewhat from precisely that, intervention on moral grounds.
It should be intervention on economic grounds, shouldn't it?
Well, I mean, it should be, generally it's kind of seen as intervention in order to defend one's interests. So if it's economic grounds, that's one thing. But if there is just something bad happening in another country, with which one wouldn't agree, can one really motivate one's own nation to go and fight over that? I mean, is anybody interested in invading Burma anytime soon?
Well, what did the Burmese do? No, I'm joking.
I mean, give how much oil do they have? Give it a couple of years, and we'll be invading China over climate change. Maybe, who knows?
Sweden certainly wants to.
Really? I mean,
there have been Swedish academics who have called for climate dictatorships. I'm like, fucking hell, man. What's wrong?
Well, I mean, a war in that regard could lead to a new role for someone. She could become Greta of Ark.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way she's being treated at the moment. Yeah. That you did a video, didn't you? Is it today or yesterday? About
today.
Yeah, about the train and the photo and the passive aggressive German train response, where they basically said there was a photo, for anyone who doesn't know, of Greta sitting on the floor with a ton of baggage in the train car, and she tweeted it out, and then the train company retweeted her and said something along the lines of, we're working to improve our services, but I notice you're not praising our staff who treated you very well in first class.
Yeah, and it's a very German way to put it as well. But yeah, I just see her as essentially a puppet of her parents, and I mean, who knows what this is going to do to her,
So hang on a moment. She published a photograph of herself on the floor, even though eventually she got to sit later on in a different class. So doesn't that remind us of someone?
Yes, it does. Comrade Corbyn did exactly the same thing.
Yes. Simon Butterfield says, I watched your stream, Sargon, and I enjoyed it. So there you go.
Oh, thank you.
Marcus 10 says, has the left become a figure of fun?
Become?
They're always a figure of fun. It's just a question of whether or not you want to laugh or cry at some of their movements.
Well,
it depends on which side of the barbed wire you are.
Yeah, well, no, go back 20 years, and the left was full of cultural capital and credibility, and had credible figures and voices on it. Now it's the Ash Sarkar Brigade, so it's okay.
It's sort of it's a weird pendulum swing for Labour, because, of course, many people saw the shift to Tony Blair being a move to Tory light, the Blairites being much more fiscally, socially conservative, if not fiscally. And then, of course, Gordon Brown messed everything up for them in a huge way, although they were already collapsing when Tony Blair stepped down. And they just seem to have just shunted the other way. Although it doesn't surprise me that they kind of went as hard left as they did. Because, they published the election maps of what would have happened if only 18 to 25s voted, right? And it's Red Nation.
Thank God they're the people least likely to vote.
And, but the amount of people sharing this on Facebook going, oh, it's so sad that old people are allowed to vote because they're not even going to inherit the world that we
Dude, raise the voting age to 35.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking. Fuck it. No, sorry, 20-year-olds. You should have kept the 18 to 25-year-olds in check. Sorry.
And
there is one question I would like to ask regarding Labour, because we all saw who Ash Sarkar was with when the news came and it all turned sour. Because Owen Jones obviously was grieving when the whole thing happened. But when I saw it, the one thing I was struck by was when at first Corbyn came to power, wasn't Owen Jones extremely critical of him? Wasn't Owen Jones entirely with the Blairites, saying this is the politics of the past and whatever?
No.
And somehow he then talked himself into being Corbyn's great cheerleader.
No, Owen Jones has always liked Corbyn, and he's always been very sympathetic to him. But he's also a political realist, or at least he fancies himself to be. And so when Corbyn was obviously massively unpopular in the polls, he wasn't afraid of pointing that out. But it's not that it's not that he has any sympathy for the Blairites at all. He's totally sympathetic to Corbyn. He just really didn't think Corbyn could win. And I think that he somehow persuaded himself that Corbyn could have won because of the 2017 result, which they never point out that it was against Theresa May, who was just the weakest Conservative in the world. And it staggeringly
the fact that he lost to Theresa May was more of a statement in and of itself about his weakness.
Yes, no, honestly, yes. I mean, if anyone at that point, then they probably could have rolled Theresa May completely, especially if they'd gone for a quite hard Remain stance as well, or not even hard, but a slightly more indicative Remain stance, because they could have sucked up a bunch of voters from the Lib Dems. And but the thing that you saw when he was on Sky News, and he looked like he was about to fucking cry, right?
I love that image.
Crushed.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Ash Sarkar looked like she didn't give a shit. That was the thing. She was just sat there, clear-eyed, just this is just a defeat for socialism. It'll march on. You can tell that's a general attitude for her. But for Owen, this was an absolute whipping.
But as well that Ash really doesn't have any faith in any of the current settings of things.
No.
Owen is quite clearly in favour of a form of democratic socialism, whereas Ash Sarkar wants to burn the whole thing to the ground and then revolution it up.
Yeah, totally. But in her opinion, Jeremy Corbyn's probably a right winger.
He'll be the first to go when she gets in, that sort of thing.
Well, I mean, he's probably not the first. Peter Hitchens is probably the first. But...
Yes, there will be many pogroms and purges.
Has anyone been watching David Starkey's speeches of late?
I watched one, but I couldn't tell you what it was recently. Are you addicted to him at the moment?
Well, he does seem to have his thumb on many of the points, and I love the way that he delivers it as well, because he's like, listen, I'm the leading constitutional historian in the country. I know about this. It's my job to know about this, and none of them are listening to him. And so he just sits there explaining it in crystal clear and categoric terms. So you just go, okay, fucking hell, this is actually becoming really obvious now you put it out like this. But essentially what he thinks is he thinks that reason is going to destroy any ethnic ties. And I think that people are voting against that. I don't think they want that to happen, because communism is a product of reason. It's nothing but reason. In fact, it's universal. It's not tied to any particular ethnic group or place. It's for everyone everywhere. That's the problem, and so it doesn't find a home anywhere. And they would happily just strip away everything that came from the past, because it was not created by reason. A lot of it was created by pragmatism. What works, and that's why in England we tend to think being old as being good, because if they've lasted for that long, there must have been something to them, right? They must have had some functionality, which is a pretty sensible way of looking at the world.
I think that was the Smith lecture, wasn't it, that he gave? That was the speech in which he spoke about reason and how it is basically a sort of a pure form of reason that leads pretty much to hell.
It destroys anything that wasn't created by reason, right? And so, hang on, because the point being, I think that Boris is leaning into the kind of gut feeling of politics at this point, right? He put up a little video the other day. It's like, hello, folks. With your scone, do you put the jam on first, or do you put the clotted cream on first? And I'm just thinking, obviously, you put the cream on first. But secondly,
I'm gonna have to fight you, man.
Mate, you're a fucking vile man, right? But secondly,
it's butter, jam, cream. I'm sorry, that's the way it goes.
What? Okay, right. Look, aside from the fact that you're clearly a German in disguise, The point
I'm
is,
going to
Boris,
beat your ass, man.
Boris is appealing to like a gut feeling there, right? He's speaking to like a national character. I think he's very aware that like reason is not going to win this election. Like Jeremy Corbyn turning up with all the stats and figures and all this sort of stuff. It doesn't matter. People are voting with their gut at the moment, and that's what Brexit was about. You know, this was about a show of force, a show of nobility. You know, we don't care if we lose money. It doesn't matter if we lose fucking money. What matters is we're not governed by the Germans. That's the thing behind it all, right? And so I think he's lent into that. And I think David Starkey is essentially giving the philosophical framework around it. And I think that's a really accurate picture of what's happening.
People are ripping into me for the idea of butter. Oh, God.
You are a fucking savage.
And then there's someone saying, yep, Mark is correct. Yeah, we clearly haven't eaten
okay,
anything
other
correct.
German spy detected.
Right. Look, Zeke... No, I'm not going to finish that.
When the day well...
No, but what you're saying about Starkey and kind of British pragmatism, I was thinking about first past the post, because people a lot of the people around me are making noises about if it had been proportional representation, it would have been a hung parliament and whatnot. But I was thinking about this like every single time I go and I like there's something that always brings me back to this idea that like FPTP has something going for it. Like, why has it survived this long if it's as shit as everyone's saying, like compared to proportional representation?
I've had that same thought. Why do you think?
And I've just been going through it, and I'm like, the British have somehow found a way to like in an unequal kind of way managed to represent give proportional power to prevent tyranny of the majority, and at the same time be representative enough of the people, like across the breadth of the entire nation, without like the whole thing falling apart. And the same way that you kind of consider the Commons and the Lords, like why is the Lords still a thing? Given it's like it seems like this bastardization between kind of feudalism and democracy, and yet they're an appropriate check on populist policy and powers that seems to just sort of function the way it is. And I feel like it's a really delicate balance. And whenever anyone proposes like something which is going to change, like there's a lot of talk recently about like making the House of Lords electable, and I'm like, what are you doing? That would be like one of the worst things that you could do to make them like fully elected members, because then they'd be...
Mr. Farage wants that.
Because then they would be like fully at the whim of public opinion once again. Does that make sense? It would
just become a second version of the Commons, yes.
Yeah. Any thoughts?
I think that people generally voted against first past the post, because I think there's this kind of, again, I think a lot of this is subconscious, but I think that when they see something that just seems a bit too fucking clever by half, and some smart aleck has figured it out, when there's a very blunt and almost quite belligerent way of doing it that is obviously fair, even if it's a real bitch of a system. Like the person who gets the most votes wins. Argue against it, right? Like it's like, but some people, fuck off, don't care. That's what voting is. Whoever gets the most votes, in this constituency wins, and you can shut your fucking mouths, right? That isn't like that is earthy. It's stupid and sensible and ground level. And then when you start getting these airy fairy, we'll have transferable votes, and some people, no, fuck off. Just let the guy who wins win.
Well, I think the main benefit I would see in it is the fact that the largest group actually then gets to govern and without having to compromise. Whereas if you have proportional representation, it invariably brings about coalitions, which effectively means nobody gets what they want, because it all ends up in horse trading. And the horse trading is completely beyond the reach of the people. They can't stop it. So in this regard, yes, you can effectively run the country even though you only get 45% of the vote, but you do represent substantially the largest group, and at least then you don't have to compromise. Whereas otherwise, yes, you might be able to build this, above 50% construct, but nobody within that 50% actually gets what they want, because everybody is stymied by their coalition partners.
And you could get a lot of minority parties making decisions that the majority don't agree with.
Well, I saw, so the biggest example is Italy, right? Like a friend of mine was saying, I feel like a hung parliament is possibly the best result.
Well, whatever it is, just do the opposite.
But it's just like the Italians, who work almost exclusively on this, have had more parliaments than they've had years they've had a democracy, right? And that no one is in for more than like a year. It just doesn't work. It doesn't seem to work in the same way.
Well, isn't the problem that the Italians have is that they don't have a minimum percentage. So if you compare it to, say, the German system, yes, it's proportional representation, but you have to have at least 5% of the overall vote in order to qualify for any seats. So one of the problems I think the Italians have is that they have very many sort of groups that may only have 1 or 2 seats. And somehow, out of this terrible patchwork, you then have to glue something together.
Yeah, sounds awful.
Speaking of things which are less awful, though, MauLer, what is your position on scones?
I was going to say, I'm sorry, but I'm going to take the radical centrist view on this and say that you can do whatever you want, and I don't actually really care.
Get off the fence, MauLer!
Britisher, you have company!
On the fence, apparently, yes. That seems to be my throne, doesn't it?
Do you have a particular scone preference?
No, I don't find myself eating them much.
I can also say I'm not prolific in my scone eating, but if I were to be eating one right now, then if it were butter or it were cream, that would go on first and then the jam.
See, British is a far right scone eater.
Well, there you go.
I actually had scones today and cream. It was amazing.
It's how the other half live, Sargon. If only we could all be so successful.
Yeah, right.
It's from his winnings from his 1.3 million watching that day.
Oh my! How
That's right. I spent it all on scones.
The friend of the working class from his echelons of power, his throne of scones.
Jeeves, order in a wheelbarrow of scones, will you?
Yes, with a full pint of cream.
Yeah, my favourite monocle to go with it.
But what is it like? You don't get beer goggles, you get sherry monocle. Is that what it's going to become?
No, but man, so the the North FC meme.
No,
you do. You've seen it. Hang on, I'll find it.
Okay. North FC.
Just yeah.
Oh, is it like the sort of really badly drawn?
Yes.
Yeah, I think.
Right. Basically, it's the sort of parody of Northerners, which is deeply uncharitable. Right. I never share these memes or anything like that because I actually find these disrespectful. Right.
Yeah.
I'll put it in the stream chat. This is the sort of thing I'm talking.
Right.
So I don't share these generally. I can't think.
This is like the most racist thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, exactly. It's like this is what the leftists share about the gammons in the north, right? And I really find them quite distasteful because they come from a position of massive privilege. And that actually is class privilege that they're pouring on them, scorn that they're pouring on them. This
is the sort of thing I would expect people to have like put up propaganda about the blacks, when you were allowed to refuse them into things because people were like, oh, they're stupid and they're like lower IQ and so on.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. That's the
taste that leaves in my mouth.
Exactly. That's exactly the flavor of the right. And it's one of those things where it's like, look, this is actually really gross because this is your countrymen that you're demeaning, and what you're saying is they're too fucking thick and don't deserve to get, ahead in life. And so I don't share these, so I find them really annoying. And but this is, I absolutely adore the new ones since they started voting Conservative.
Right.
The meme has changed so much. I actually really quite adore this one.
Okay. Oh my god. Let me just, I'm going to save this one.
I love the upper class North. You know what? Fuck you, Labour. Because it's Labour people sharing these fucking North memes, right?
Yeah.
It's Labour people sharing this, going, oh, look at these unsophisticated Northerners, eating their Greggs and watching football. Fuck them. And I'm like, so they're like, right, we'll join the Tories. Fuck you. No, The salt. The
That reminds
fucking...
me.
Would you by any chance be meaning people with St. George's flags hanging from their windows and a white van parked outside?
Yes.
This reminds me that I need to create Greg's leggings for the merch store. People are keen.
But this is why I got myself an English flag. So I was like, you know what? It shouldn't be a sign of middle class disdain for the working class to have an English, to look down on an English flag. Like, it really shouldn't. I think it's actually kind of gross when you think about it. Especially
when there are so many flags that they will support.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not getting a fucking Hamas flag.
Okay, it's not usually the one I see hanging around, but like if you take something like
plenty,
if you take like something
Palestine, communism,
Palestine, communism, like you see like the Rainbow Coalition flag, and it's like, but like the reason I bring
Spanish
up that one
flags
specifically
as well, from the Spanish Civil War
is it's just like it's something they'll put on everything. It's like kind of like transnational, effectively. Like you can always tell who the LGBT activist is on like a student campus because they're the one with like not just multicolored hair and dresses androgynously, but they're wearing a backpack with like a massive rainbow flag on it. They've got badges all down their side of their arm, possibly a tattoo which has the same thing on it, and you're just like you realise that you're almost like a parody of the thing that you claim that you hate when you're as obsessed with this idea as like everything when you slate Tommy Robinson supporters or whatever for bringing out a St. George's cross. It's the same thing. Yeah.
And so I've decided I'm having these. This is why I never use this meme. So I really kind of hate it. But the one in the Tory suit, I love it. I actually love it.
Yes.
Fuck you.
Well, actually, no. Go ahead.
I was just going to say there's something endearing about it, isn't there? Really,
there is. Yeah.
Well, I would say that that style of meme is actually quite symbolic of a certain attitude that I think has cost Labour dearly in this election.
Yeah.
The word you mentioned before, disdain.
Yeah.
That disdain that became all too obvious when, activists and in some cases even MPs were kind of talking about, the racism and the xenophobia and whatever that will lay behind supporting Brexit and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But once you start expressing disdain of that magnitude toward your own electorate, at what point then can you no longer really say you are surprised when that electorate tells you to take a hike?
And
I
mean, you get what you fucking deserve. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that really it will be interesting to see how long it will take them for that to sink in before they finally realise that perhaps insulting all these people 24/7 was not very wise.
Yeah. I mean, you just mentioned there, Sargon, you get what you fucking deserve. I assume that's
from Joker.
That's Joker as well. Have you seen that meme has been kind of not co-opted, but like the people who are using it is either like kind of really hardcore political memes, or it's like the most wholesome thing that you could ever see. Like the most of the memes I see from it, it's like because it's the scene where he shoots the guy in the face, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like me when my friend says, "Oh, you shouldn't have," after I got them a present. It's like, you get what you fucking deserve. And on the other side of it, it's just like how I feel when Labour spends the entire election campaign denigrating the working classes. It's like, you get what you deserve. Yeah, I like that. Hazara says, Britisher, you must watch The Swiss Family Robinson. Have you not seen The Swiss Family Robinson?
I think I may have seen it many, many, many years ago.
It's one film I can claim to have watched.
And I'm assuming it's more than likely set in Stoke North.
I don't know where it's like the third world, you mean? Yes.
No, Captain Swiss. Please work with me.
Oh,
here.
I see. Oh, fine. Okay.
Yes.
Like, I'm not following too much. Hinchstar says the most momentous general election result in a generation and you bum boys were talking about Star Wars.
Yeah.
There's no time not to talk about Star Wars.
Zach Gilbert says, another stream, long man? Don't stop. Does it hurt?
And yeah, I've got another stream tomorrow, and then Rise of Skywalker, and then another stream after that. It's my schedule is full.
Is it out this week?
But
Is it the 19th or something?
I'm seeing it. It's out on Thursday, I believe, but Wednesday midnight. Obviously, you can go see it as well.
Oh, nice. Somehow I don't think that... I'd be curious, because I know so many Star Wars fans who basically said with The Last Jedi that that's it, no more money, Disney. Sorry, that's it, bye-bye. And then boycotted things like Solo, which obviously led to them basically cancelling any further spin-offs because it wasn't as profitable as they expected.
I think the success of this film will dictate what happens next. For Disney are keeping it very close to the chest as the future of Star Wars. They recently came out saying that, well, at least Kathleen Kennedy said that they're not going to do trilogies anymore because, stories, they should be open-ended. It should be one at a time, that sort of thing.
We can only get a director to sign on for one film at a time. That's the
It's just like they almost blame the idea of a trilogy for how badly everything is done. There's been a lot of excuse-making. Another thing was Kathleen Kennedy was like, it's really hard to do this sort of work when you don't have something to work from, like Marvel does. It's like, wow.
It's like, wow, so you're completely unoriginal. Okay.
As if you haven't... it could be theoretically easier, because when you adapt, you need to stay faithful.
Not to mention, let's face it, Disney basically non-canonized so much extended universe stuff. You can't tell me that there isn't some gold in there and that they can't just pay someone for part of the script and then have them come on as an advisor for screenwriting, right? Surely. You see, there are several really good Star Wars adaptations on for usually Imperial clone trooper units, where they have some really well-written stories on there, and also several kind of original stories. I know there was one big one. I'm trying to remember what the plot was to it now, but they basically did a 10-minute extended universe thing after negotiating with Disney to make sure it wouldn't get claimed. Then it was claimed. Then they got support and they got it retracted and stuff like that. But it's not like you haven't got enough fans out there who have enough experience with script writing and storytelling and all that sort of thing, even if you're only pulling from YouTube, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've got no excuse.
Well, they like to pretend that there's something that explains how poorly they've handled everything.
Well, possibly their choice of directors and the fact that they didn't
would say their writers and directors could use some changing up.
And
can I just sorry interject, because I don't know why, but this kind of just got me thinking that just everywhere that the left is politically active, whether it's in Hollywood with the movies that they've got their tendrils in, or politics or wherever, there's just so much cope going on at the moment. They're like, why did you lose again and again and again? Well, I mean, there are reasons. I've got a lot of fucking reasons, all right, but they're never addressing why they're shit.
There's no,
they think they're doing good. So.
They do. They certainly do.
There's no real self-reflection, right? And it's not to say that Star Wars isn't also incredibly profitable, but it's trading off its previous reputation.
Yeah, that's going down incrementally, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean certainly in terms of the percentage profit, but you kind of expect them to. I don't know, they should have treated it, instead of trying to compete with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is obviously the whole thing, and corporatizing it all. So don't hire 2 directors so that you can mash out a film every year until it's done. Actually take some time over your project, perhaps. Perhaps don't have 12 screenwriters and have it more of a unified vision. I don't know.
Well, maybe don't announce that you intend to release a given number of films over so and so many years without actually having any basis to do so. As in, basically, make a film when you think you're ready for it, rather than set yourself a schedule and then have to produce these films whether you have any ideas or not.
Well, I kind of feel like you can do it, but only if you've established something. Whereas it's been so long since, like, every new Star Wars trilogy is a new thing, right? Whereas something like, as I say, the MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, was established. They were very cautious at the beginning. Like, I'm sure you guys will remember, except Britisher who hasn't watched any of them. You'll remember.
Sounded barbed.
Yeah. He's mentioned it before, his distaste.
Well, you see, I just happen to hate superhero films.
Oh, I do too. Yeah,
So there's that. But like they started off with
Bunch
things.
of weirdos.
They started off with Iron Man and like, well, to a lesser degree, the Hulk. But I mean, that was something different. But they started off with like Iron Man and establishing the actors that they wanted to use for characters. And I think they kind of fell into luck with the fact that Robert Downey Jr. appeared to become the quintessential Iron Man, and he was very charismatic, and everyone loved sort of his portrayal. And then you add things along, you know, they had the kind of space to experiment with a couple of the different franchises. Like, they tried to go really dark with the Thor ones, and no one liked it, so they just leaned more heavily into the kind of comedy aspect. And then they decided that, we'll break from the formula, we'll take a leap of faith with the Guardians of the Galaxy thing, see if people like when we move into space away from Earth-related stories. You know, all these little incremental steps, right? But this is why, like, DC can't keep up. They try and introduce everything too quickly. So, like, Star Wars can't keep up. They try and release everything too quickly without, like, building characters and stories which people love that are kind of that people can get invested in. Do you know what I mean?
I think the people writing Hollywood movies these days are so detached from quote unquote people that they can't really relate to them anymore.
Any thoughts, MauLer, as the resident film critic?
In regards to
like
what
the
Star Wars
speed-
Why
failed
does
to
Hollywood
do, but
suck?
I'm happy to conclude it's just they've been celebrating mediocrity for so long that they've forgotten what it takes to make something that's really fucking good.
I blame China and India. I have done so repeatedly in the past.
The racist comes
too
out.
many participation awards. I feel this way about YouTube videos.
Go
Just
on,
because you
blame the
made
brown
one
people
doesn't mean
for
it was
shit.
good.
Sorry, say again?
Just because you made a thing doesn't mean it's good.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate the criticism, but you know,
I specifically mean you.
Yeah.
not-
Am I going to get am I going to get a 22-hour
Yes.
like breakdown now? Like why
Mark
fake
feels personally attacked.
Yeah, why fake accents should be taken
like-
offline.
EFAP got started because I was like, why does everybody like super respect all of these crazy idiot video essayists that say stupid shit and have all this like all these patterns, you know, like speaking as though something incredible is happening. And they're talking about like the fucking climax of Power Rangers movie, and you're like, what the hell's happening?
Jonathan McIntosh going on about Steven Universe. And it's like, dude, my 4-year-old will like Steven Universe.
He argued that TLJ was a message to men that they need to listen to women. And it's the kind of thing where it's like, you
What
know
a
what?
hot take.
Of course he did.
We're going to get some friends, we're going to watch these videos, and we're going to talk about how stupid the points are. We're doing it.
It's really weird looking at it from like the politics side, because the left really have no handle on political YouTube. There's like a couple of big ones. Like I'm thinking,
They do have some big left-wing YouTubers for different genres as well, not just one genre.
but they tend to like they either are in the game so long they become red pilled, or they like become. I mean, I guess because the mainstream media kind of has the handle on a lot of it in terms of like the comedy aspects and so on. But like, who's the left wing Sargon, right? Like, I mean, you're not going to tell me it's Kevin Logan, are you? Like,
I don't want to say Kyle Kalinske, but probably Kyle Kalinske.
possibly. But even then, like, it's hard to tell.
How left-wing would you regard The Amazing Atheist?
He's pretty left-wing.
So maybe it's him.
I don't know. I've never watched anything by Amazing Atheist, I have to say.
He's okay. Yeah, he has his moments, you know.
Someone in the chat's just saying.
I always say he could always double as a Wookiee, isn't it, in Star Wars?
Oh, God.
He apparently is very tall.
He has
yeah.
something of that about him.
Someone in chat saying, as a woman, you need to listen to me when I tell you don't listen to women.
Well, actually, that is something to look forward to when it comes to the Labour leadership debate, because previously, whenever there was one or two female candidates, at least one of them was always going to say, well, speaking as a woman. So with there being that much of a field of female candidates, that's definitely going to be one of the lines to look out for.
Speaking of speaking as a woman, did anyone see the absolute car crash that was like Joe Swinson's last interview?
Yes.
It was so good.
I don't know why she couldn't just say adult female woman. Adult female human, sorry.
For anyone who doesn't know, there was an interview where someone called into a radio show. Joe
it wasn't just someone, right? So the person who called in, I think it was someone called Posey Parker, an activist called Posey
Parker. Oh, really?
Parker,
oh, amazing.
Who, for anyone who doesn't know, is a TERF and doesn't like the fact that the intersectionals are effectively giving men female privilege.
Yeah. And basically she said, so what is a woman? And Joe Swinson's there going, I'm a woman, and I know what I am.
Are you though, Joe?
And she's just going, and we need to support women of all colours and creeds, wherever they come from, and also the trans women, and try to sneak that in at the end. And she was like, yeah, but what happens if you want to reform to self-ID? And, we get a sex offender who just walks in. She's like, female-only spaces are obviously they need protections, but it was a complete disaster.
Yeah. Well, it's worth pointing out that Posey Parker, I think in Liverpool, also put up a poster which had nothing other than the dictionary definition of the word woman on it.
Oh, yes, it said human, adult, female or something.
And, of course, that provoked, as was to be expected, quite a, let's say, emotionally rich backlash.
I mean, how do you argue with it? Sorry.
Yes, it is a strange situation where the dictionary definition of something can cause mayhem. Yes.
They're not even smart enough to come up with like a clever counter-campaign where they have the same poster, but it has an asterisk and then all of their contentions on it. Yeah. Right? There's just...
And of course, to top it all, when Posey Parker was then interviewed on Trigonometry recently, Trigonometry had that video taken down for a while.
Yep.
Why?
Hate speech.
Oh. She's worse than Tommy Robinson. I've had at least 3 or 4 interviews or videos with. I've not had one of them taken. Posey Parker, of course, is a terrible threat to democracy.
That's because they know her, like in a way that they don't know Tommy Robinson. It's like we know what she's capable of. She obviously helped build our movement. You know.
Saying something that's true, that woman is adult, human, female. I mean, that's not. Come on.
It's how long before it gets classified along with the other hate facts?
Well, yeah. Is it hate speech? Like, it's possible that they'll call it.
Dictionaries will be removed from all bookshops of the United Kingdom.
It's just one of those bizarre things where, like a seemingly innocuous statement and it's all seen as a dog whistle, it's like it's okay to be white poster from America, right?
It's okay to be a woman. I hate speech. This is racism.
You know, the guy who originally came up with the "it's okay to be white" thing was arrested the other day.
Oh, was he? Jesus,
yeah, they hunted him down and they arrested him to question him about his like supposed white supremacist links. And of course,
was the arrest specifically because of that poster, or was it relating to something else?
No, it was because of that poster. And they eventually had to let him go because, of course, it was just a guy on 4chan,
what he actually done wrong,
It's kind of like it's a shame, or like I feel like they felt like, well, he's on 4chan. There's probably something we can get him on. It's kind of quite a relief that he didn't have like some accidental access to child pornography or something,
I just had a coming together on that very subject a few days back. And, when I basically was to say, well, but isn't it factually correct? That didn't seem to go anywhere. It just didn't compute. And you just
don't care about your facts, British.
Policy doesn't care about your facts.
All politics is about
that. Politics is about finding controversial issues, making them into a grey area, and then fighting about them. That's the way I see it.
What was that again? The Euro sausage, wasn't it?
Oh God! Don't bring up Euro sausage, man. Like,
But
this is a
first you
family-friendly
create a
stream.
problem to which you then provide the solution.
Yes. Do you know about this one,
The
Sargon?
emulsified
do not.
Euro sausage or something like that, wasn't it? It's
Yeah.
Yes, Minister.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Do you want to explain this one, Britt?
Well, the EU in that particular episode is thinking of categorizing sausages, and because British sausages have got some things in that they shouldn't have, like breadcrumbs, as far as the definition of the EU were concerned, they are considering basically changing the name in order to differentiate it from what would be a sausage. And therefore, what is it? It's not even the Euro sausage. It's some of the Euro offal tube or something like that they wish to refer to it as.
It's awful.
And in fact, the minister has already spoken to some functionary in Europe. And okay, yes, we've already found a solution. We will refer to it as the British sausage, and like that, we will get around it. But that is, of course, not how he presents it, because then he doesn't have a problem. So what he does is he briefs the entire national media that the Europeans are wanting to do away with British sausages. And then once the entire media is in a complete frenzy, then he steps forward as the man of the hour who has got the solution to this, and then presents himself as the man who has saved the British sausage. And yes, it's a beautiful lesson in how some of politics works.
Can I be bold and actually make a controversial statement here?
Go on.
I actually think that British sausages are some of the worst in Europe.
Well, sure, if you're eating Richmond's. Although you were raised in Germany, pretty much, Sargon. So
Yeah, that's why I know their sausages are better.
That is sausage country, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say that's not fair.
yes.
Proper,
in Poland too.
it's a proper sausage fest of a country.
Oh.
No, but even in France and Italy, I think the continental is better than British sausages. I think it's true. It's an objective fact.
Are you putting jam, then cream, then sausage on your scones at this point?
No, look, you're the one who puts butter, then whatever,
Jam, then cream.
Yeah, then cream. You are the heathen traitor here in that regard.
You and I will have to go for a cream tea off at some point and make it live.
Honestly, I find your mannerisms disgusting. I bet you put milk in the cup of tea before you've taken out the tea bag as well.
I refuse to answer this question.
Not so obvious. Confirmed. Corrupted by the East as he spent his time.
I don't actually have milk in my tea. I drink black tea.
So, I mean, when it comes to British sausages, can I just, in defense of British sausages, say that it's not all just bangers that you buy in the supermarket? I mean,
ethno-sausagism here.
Well, I mean, you can also get fairly nice Cumberland sausage, can't you?
Yeah, I was thinking even Cumberland, they're still inferior to the German bratwurst or Polish sausage.
So you would sort of be looking at bratwurst, Krakauer, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm just so sad Rags isn't here.
I mean, we have also got the so-called
Well, the
Savoy,
sausage
haven't
talk.
we? Which is actually a French-inspired one.
Yes, but that's still inferior to the German ones.
I agree with Tailed Feature, black pudding, Trump sausage.
Oh dear God, no.
Yeah, no.
No, don't listen to that heathen from up north.
So,
No.
Get your North FC fucking memes out.
The more we talk, Sargon, just the more we disagree. Whatever will we do? Can't believe we were ever associated. Explosive X says anyone who likes The Last Jedi probably voted Labour. Die Hard is a Christmas movie Britisher. John McClane saved Christmas by throwing Euro trash out the window. It's the original Brexit Christmas movie.
No. It's a film filled with renditions of Ode to Joy, the EU national anthem. This is actually a dog whistle for leftist Remain supporters. It's as simple as that. They're all communists. Anybody who thinks likes the film and who thinks that it is, in fact, a Christmas movie, hates Britain and is actually just, Verhofstadt's poodle.
In fact, anyone who's even seen Die Hard, to be honest.
Oh god, no! If you've seen it advertised in HMV, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to have your eyelids sewn shut.
I remember HMV.
A long time ago.
Long time ago.
Why have I got Bye American? American Pie.
Yeah.
Marcus tells us if Jess Phillips becomes Labour leader and then Prime Minister, will Sargon be in line for his knighthood?
Probably be in line for the jail.
I mean, if you like knighthood, then guillotine. I don't know. Yeah. It's like, thank you for your services to my new regime. Now off you go.
I can see her trying to exercise the power as well of being a prime minister and expecting me to oh, sorry, Prime Minister, blah blah. No, fuck off, bitch.
You act like you wouldn't be the first one in prison,
Yeah, I'll do my time.
Maximum security, of course, for mean comments. Yeah. It's like solitary.
Well, on that.
You just imagine. You imagine. Sorry, you just imagine imagining Sargon in solitary confinement, trying to talk to his imaginary audience on the wall as he's gone slowly mad.
Well, you would be in the wing of solitary confinement next to Julian Assange, wouldn't you?
Hey, that'd be cool.
You're assuming he's still alive at that point.
Oh yeah. He should be fucking released, man.
Talking about, I think we've gone back to Chewbacca eating people. Jaws the Great and Powerful says, based and red-pilled Chewbacca. George says, MauLer is critical drinker's bitch. Change my mind.
Oof.
Response, MauLer.
I mean, if you're going to be anyone's bitch, that's a pretty good result.
Could have done worse, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm pretty sure you'll get a steady supply of alcohol too. So,
if you think about it in fairness, critical drinker will be dead from liver poisoning in about 5 years if this kind of continues.
An Irish liver, those things can take quite the hit.
I was going to say,
Scottish liver.
I was going to say he does not sound anywhere near.
I was about to say, I guess any liver in British, you're doing okay, right? What is the best liver to have for alcohol? Would you guys say?
Probably Russian.
Probably
True.
Russian. They can just handle spirits like none other. I would have said the Irish, but they kind of exist in this perpetual pissed sort of stupor, whereas the Russians.
I'll be back in a minute because I disavow.
Ooh. Anonym says the best Christmas movie is clearly the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, definitely.
People wanted you've done some commentaries, MauLer. Sort of.
Yes.
I don't know what film's for. I can't say I particularly
recently did The Fly.
Oh, the Jeff Goldblum version.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of both love and hate that film at the same time.
It's horrifying, but wonderful.
It's so horrendous and yet so watchable at the same time. Have you watched The Fly, Britisher?
I have seen The Fly, yes, both the Jeff Goldblum and, of course, the Vincent Price original.
Yeah. But people were asking me and Britisher whether or not we could do a commentary for the Star Wars Holiday Special.
I didn't even know there was such a thing.
You do know there's
George wanted to keep it hidden. He couldn't, though.
I've only heard bad things, but I've not watched it. Can you get is there anything give us the general rundown? What's the plot?
So it's Life Day, which is think of it as Christmas for Star Wars, I think.
Oh dear God, Life Day as opposed to Christmas. Yeah,
How gloriously secular. Yeah.
Chewie's trying to get home to his family of Bakas, including Itchy Baka, and
is he the red-nosed Barker?
There's just there's grandpa ones, there's babyish ones, there's a whole family, and I think that the Empire show up at some point. They don't do much. There's a lot of really weird skits, if you will.
Is this kind of like a fully funded version of some kind of Disney Channel?
I don't know. No, it's definitely not Disney. It's
no.
Between...
You know how kids channels will take whatever film was popular. I remember Madagascar when that came out, and they were like, "Oh, it's the Madagascar Christmas special." And it's a half an hour or 20-minute long kind of episodic when none of the actual actors are in it and the animation's really poor.
It's all like awkward cameos. Like this, like Luke is just not in any scene with anyone else. He's just on this like set, and he looks kind of weird because I think it's just after the car crash had happened. There's loads of like all I would say is just go watch Red Letter Media. Watching it, it's hilarious.
Amazing.
Oh yes, Lumpy Barker as well.
Lumpy Barker. Oh my!
I am losing the will to live. You want me to watch this thing?
Are you sure this is not like some sort of Red Nose Day skit? I don't know. Apparently, it's the first introduction to Boba Fett canonically.
I believe so. Yeah.
Now, Boba Fett's a weird one. I was always more of a Jango Fett kind of guy, but then I did kind of get raised on the prequels, and I was always just like, when you're a kid, you don't notice hardly any of the plot holes unless you're particularly autistic. So they were always my favourite, and so I was like, oh, Jango Fett, he's a bit of a badass, really. And the whole Boba Fett thing, I didn't even put together till later. But I was like, he's blue, Boba Fett is green and a bit scuffed up. I like Jango Fett.
I am unfamiliar with Django and Boba Fett. I'm only familiar with Bubba Smith, who was in Police Academy.
Do you hate movies? Is that it?
Exactly.
This is coming from a man who has put film reviews on his channel, apparently.
Yes, along those lines.
But yeah,
it's just I'm not one to make sci-fi movies into a religious experience for myself.
He just has no fantasy, suspension of disbelief, or any kind of comedic spirit. MauLer. That's the main thing you need to understand.
Can I interject here? Has anyone seen PewDiePie's latest video?
Yes, I have made a meme about it that I'm going to play on stream.
This is about the Twitter departure, is it?
So, no. So not that one then. I was just watching it while I was having a cigarette. Like, he's actually explaining Aristotle to his audience of 9-year-olds.
Yeah,
which is incredible.
This is his. This is the same video in which he quits Twitter.
Oh, is it? Right, okay.
Because he's fully quit Twitter now. I have a meme which I'm going to show to the chat when we get that around there. Basically, he was like, I hate the fact that social media is just virtue points online and they've gamified it. Then he goes and explains Aristotle, Plato briefly, and Socrates. And he's talking about how badass it is that Alexander the Great learned everything that he did from Aristotle. And then he goes into this kind of philosophical video where he's like, please don't click off, but I'm going to talk philosophy now, and then does for the next 10 minutes.
He does a really good job of explaining that Aristotle's core contention to being like a virtuous person is habit. It's not something you can teach an individual act. It's something you have to practice your whole life, and he does a really good job of it. I'm like, holy shit, dude, that's awesome.
There were a lot of people. Yeah, there were a lot of people going like PewDiePie is the red pill that we didn't know we deserved. Like
basically,
he's just doing a
well, no, because like this is exactly what we would want him to say. Like, virtue is done procedurally. It's how you get from A to B, and what you did is what matters. Because this is why Dan Abbott's like, well, on balance, I think Mao did more good than bad. It's like, Dan, like a lot of bad things happened in that, but it's not viewing things conceptually like Plato. It's viewing things procedurally like Aristotle, and that is the core of the red pill, I would say.
I can't show this because I haven't turned off hardware acceleration for Chrome, sadly. So I'll just have to recommend that people go and watch the meme afterwards. But basically, I just made a meme of PewDiePie kicking Twitter in the face, because at the end of the video, he's just like, fuck Twitter. He's just like, he's decided that this video is not going to be monetized, and he doesn't do any, he doesn't make any bounds about it. He just goes, oh yes, and fuck Twitter. And he's left. He's completely gone.
What if PewDiePie ends up killing Twitter?
Well, people are saying that he should create PewTube, and that it should be a new function. But I don't think he'd be willing to do that.
No, I don't think he'd be interested in doing that.
As the days go by, though, more and more talk of, get a new YouTube sucks sort of thing.
That's true.
Well,
I think it would take someone else other than PewDiePie, someone a
I just
little
think you'd
louder
grab
who's American to kill
Elon
Twitter.
Musk.
well, you'd also be surprised. Like the reason YouTube has its monopoly is because YouTube is an unprofitable venture, and it's maintained by Google so that they can collect data for their advertising agents. And
Yeah,
so that-
YouTube. It's not just the money that comes in; there's a lot of influence and power that comes with
it's very
being that platform.
soft power oriented. And
But the reason YouTube works in the way that it does is because that's the thing that's embedded in the cultural zeitgeist. You know, it's like if you want to put videos on the internet, you go to YouTube. That's where everyone goes.
it's one of those weird things where it's kind of like the international version of like a local signifier, like how in China the word Nokia is synonymous with mobile phone, and over here we have Hoover instead of vacuum cleaner, but it's now international, so it's kind of got that much more staying power, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think YouTube can be unseated for that reason alone.
No. And again, like, no one's yet to find a more profitable model for it either. So,
Well, actually, no, I disagree. I think there are far more profitable models. I think BitChute could become a massively more profitable model because you don't have to host anything on the back end. You know,
like BitChute,
or like one copy of each video they host. So, but you know, that's infinitesimally smaller amounts.
Like the big problem with BitChute is that aside from the fact that its website is relatively unusable.
Yeah, it's got lots of problems. But like as a model, like a distributed data sharing model. That's way more profitable.
I fully expect to see far more kind of digital technologies move on to blockchain in terms of it's just more ecological, you know, like it makes sense rather than it just being like, oh, let's get away from centralization. It's just actually makes sense. So I'm just people are talking about Pornhub for some reason in the chat, and I'm going, what? And they reckon that PewDiePie just was never into Twitter, so he's moved to Reddit now full time.
Nerd.
Mr. Gently Benevolent says, is Swinson helping Labour decide what a woman is? I don't know.
I don't think she's capable of it, to be honest.
No, she can't define it for herself. She knows what she is, but not what anyone else is. It's so strange.
But wasn't it also Lib Dem policy to allow anybody to identify as anything?
Yep.
Yeah, that's the reason it was coming up.
Yep.
British Knight says, what I want to know is if Labour apologists are talking about Jews as in the followers of the religion, or Jews as in the ethnic Judeans and Semites. I get the feeling it's probably the latter. And I'd say it's probably the latter.
Whichever way is derogatory.
Because they are using it as an insult, like the very word as an insult. Like if there's one thing,
Zionist.
There's many. Well, it's just like that one transcript which literally said "shut up, Jew," and you're just going like for all the ills of the Conservatives. At least there's no reports coming out of their members' meeting saying like "shut up, Muzzy" or something like that to someone.
Fucking hell! Imagine, just fucking imagine.
You know, they'd be on the newly nationalised rails, about to be run over quicker than you can say anything. You know.
Yeah.
Oh. So yes.
Yeah, one of them was Hitler was right as well.
Did someone actually say Hitler was right in one of the? Yeah. I think.
Sorry, where has this emerged from? Sorry, I'm not familiar with this.
Oh, the JRM report. I did a video on it.
Okay.
Yeah, basically, a load of transcripts from Labour member meetings. I can't remember the exact source, unfortunately. I was sort of leaning on you here with this one, Carl.
Let me get it up.
Whilst he does that, Jaws the Great and Powerful says, so this is how UK Labour dies, with thunderous applause. Nice merging of Star Wars and politics there. Border Prince Warhammer Law says, lol at the Labour leader candidates, they dead. Ruffle. Things are just going... that sort of thing. Adam Morgan says, the Tres Caballeros of the election streams. Yeah, I think people kind of liked the, because we multi-stream things. So you were putting people into your mainstream, Sargon. and me and Uzulu were also kind of
JLM submission. Sorry, but yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we're kind of
So
Yeah, sorry, you go on. Go on.
Yeah, the Jewish Labour Movement submitted a report to the Equality and Human Rights Commission, and it had some, shut up Jew, Hitler was right, that kind of 4chan stuff, and I'm like, fucking hell.
That's quite remarkable. Yes.
Now you see why Nick Griffin and Andrew Anglin endorsed Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I honestly thought it was trolling, but Andrew Anglin, I read his daily and he was like, no, look, he actually is woke on the Jews, okay? Like, I'm serious. And after this coming out, I'm like, well, maybe he was correct,
Yeah, it's pretty horrendous. For those of you wondering where the meme is, I can't get it to run because of hardware acceleration and the way Chrome works, so you'll have to watch it after the stream finishes, unfortunately. No, I'd have to refresh all of Chrome, which would mean the stream would go down, so it's not really great. But yeah, no, just talking about the election streams and saying, like, people really seem to enjoy the kind of, like, many creators kind of interacting on that.
Yeah, it's good.
And the whole multiple chat rooms thing, where they can just sort of jump between things with people having different conversations about different things. So I'm kind of glad that went when it went.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Because obviously your chat with, what was it, like 12,000 people watching at its peak was...
no, there were 17,000 at peak, I think.
Well,
it's just average of 12,000.
Excuse me. Yes.
It was
right.
But the what I mean is like your chat's moving like 10 miles a minute, so I think people appreciate having slightly quieter chat rooms as well. JP says 25-year-old checking in, raised the voting age to 45.
Yeah, agreed.
So there's that. British Knight saying, jumping on Laughing at the Guardian now, great stream last night. Did you go on Laughing at the Guardian the other week, mate? Sargon? No? Maybe I'm thinking of someone else. JP says, explore how people can recall their MPs.
There is a way of doing it.
Yeah, I think it only applies at the moment, though, if there is some sort of criminal record or something.
Yeah.
Can we get Diane Abbott for like drinking her mojito on the tube?
Recall of MPs Act 2015. Wikipedia. It's a way of recalling their MPs and calling a by-election. Does not allow constituents to initiate proceedings. Oh no, this one actually does. Right, okay. So the conditions are custodial prison sentence of a year or less, suspension from the House of at least 10 sitting days, or providing false or misleading expenses claims.
Yeah, so you have to have gone wrong, fallen foul of the system. You can't just be somebody who is no longer
in favor
with the
it's one of those,
because quite a few people would like to see it happen if someone, for example, changes their party, that you would be able to recall them.
You've got to put some checks and balances on it, because like, where's the arbitrary line for, like, if it's a petition, for instance, like how many signatures do you get? Because certainly in some of the more swing constituencies, you'd expect that it just go on all the time.
Yeah, it would be never ending. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't really have an opinion on it. Like, I'd like to see some measures in there for, like, so for instance, we had the Brexit referendum, and I would have liked to see a call for the opportunity to recall MPs who voted out of step with their constituents then, I
don't think it goes far enough. The death penalty for MPs. Only for MPs. That'll, you pledge to do well, I'm sorry, I'm sick of this fucking Brexit stuff. It's like
they'll all be demanding a pay rise. They'll want danger money.
We all want it done.
Stand down. We'll get someone else to do it. If you're not the guy, if you're not the guy to do it on the money that
they've got. It doesn't.
The point was to get rid of you, to be honest.
Imagine if we'd had a Peter Hitchens in every seat where.
Jesus Christ! Let's kill myself.
Jaws the Great and Powerful says it's pronounced squon. Discuss.
What?
Squon?
It's not a scone. It's not a scone. It's a squon. Apparently.
Oh.
I think
Maybe
we
in
could.
France.
Sounds like propaganda.
Yeah, it's clearly propaganda.
It sounds like halfway between scone and Sutscoen.
I need to. Where's it gone? I have here, because I know you're interested in history, Sargon. I have this big packet that a friend of mine gave me, which is filled with colonial and wartime propaganda. And it's all the hand-drawn inserts and stuff which went in the Daily Mail.
Yeah.
But there's also some comedy stuff in there from people who were parodying stuff at the time. So you've got Dead Action Man who comes in his own body bag and stuff like that, or this mini Daily Mail which says rich people are failing to integrate into British society, and apparently this was a real paper from, let me see where it is, 1418 or something. I don't know where it is gone. But I need to show you that when we next come down. It's a shame I don't have images really. But thought I'd mention it.
I'm surprised that in 1418 they were using words such as integrate.
I know. I don't know. I need to work out what's real in it and what's not at that point, JP says, real talk. I'm a sheep fucker, and I dislike And I dislike the Welsh and English flag. I love the Union Jack, though. I don't know what that says.
Dislike the Welsh flag. What is wrong with you?
It's got a fucking dragon on it, man.
It's the best flag on Earth outside of Isle of Man.
Look, all I'm saying is, simple is better. The clean-cut lines on a white background. St. George Cross, all the way.
Boo.
It's just everybody disliked that. Coney Current Year says the North FC meme is exclusively 4chan. It symbolises the snobbery of British middle-class black-pilled neats who think that working northerners are too stupid to turn the country around.
It's not just. If you look on Twitter, you'll find loads of leftists and Muslims, in fact, using it.
It's being shared unironically. I've definitely seen that. Yeah. Sutscoen says, miniature giant space hamsters attack Britisher. Those of you who don't know, that's quite an in-joke.
That does sound like a niche in-joke.
It is. The idea is that the academic agent is the edgy one amongst us, and his audience are attack hamsters.
Yeet Scotland, yeah.
Yeah. Half of his positions are basically just him I guess cathartic.
In defense of usury.
In defense of usury, yeah. And he has the kind of mood that you get into with politics sometimes, where it's just do you know what? Fuck this or fuck that. This is his cathartic, and he puts it all into his online persona. He's you'd be surprised how much I'm actually not that serious about, but it's just fun to do it to the extreme, to game it out. He loves it. It's great. Autocharth says, give us a taste of your Welsh voice like the last EFAP MauLer. It was magical.
I mean, you've all heard a Welsh accent before, though, wouldn't you? You must have been around, you heard it. It's fucking ridiculous a lot of the time because you can't understand what the fuck they're saying, but it's the kind of shit that you just don't hear that commonly. It was funny, I was having a ride in a taxi the other day, and there's a guy who was so heavily Welsh that I was I wish Rags or whoever else were just sitting here just to watch them be so confused. It's just like they depict it with Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels with the pikeys.
Amazing.
Can't understand it. It's
not English. It's not Welsh. It's just sort of pikey.
I lived in Cornwall for 2 years, and the Cornish accent is definitely the same. It's the you aren't from around here, that sort of meme from the League of Gentlemen. It's a lot like that in some Cornish areas.
We used to have so I used to live in Sussex, and the Sussex accent can be really, really thick, especially if they're it's the farming community. Right? Yeah. And so we used to have a gardening business, and we had this guy who called up, who was trying to direct us to where he lived, and he was talking about how he was 92, and his house was also 92, and that isn't that funny because that's his age. But like you're hearing this in like the thickest of Sussex, like
What?
92. I can't replicate this thing. But it was like, imagine if you were trying to wade through a treacle of a voice. That's the kind of thing that you had to deal with. It was it's truly funny. It was, for many years afterwards, we were talking about like any time the number 92 came up, it was just like, oh, 92, that's funny because that's my age. Anyways, Nicholas Van Neal says, why are you distinguishing between the Scottish and the Irish? The Scots are just the Irish that could swim.
Correct.
So there's that.
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, it's not contentious, apart from the fact that, I mean, they've done a little bit in between them, but you know. Froggy says,
Lost the colonial empire.
Froggy says,
Became
yeah, go on.
under the boot of England. I know. I mean, what? No. Someone send this to Dank.
Froggy says, when
Forced to wear kilts that we invented for him. Speak our language. Yes, someone send all of this to Dank. Carry on.
The unionist and the separatist. A truer love story has never been told. You're going to be like some kind of like when Scotland finally does go independent. You're going to be like some kind of Romeo and Juliet couple, aren't you? Really? It's like
Again, like with Europe, they're not actually going to be leaving the British Isles.
no, trust me. Like the full force of the ire of the Scottish, they'll separate things and they'll row off into the sunset. They
I
don't
wouldn't
care.
mind moving Britain a little bit south, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it has.
So I'm waiting for global warming. Come on.
Although people do point out that actually we're remarkably efficient, given that we have a history of binge drinking. We come from a miserable country in terms of the weather, and where it's always perpetually damp, and yet somehow we sort of trudge on. We're in quite good spirits most of the time.
We're the only happy country in all of human history. We're so fucking happy. We call it merry old England.
I have not heard someone use that phrase in quite a while.
If
It's not so merry now, but it used to be.
If we were to move England a little further south, as you suggest, wouldn't that require shunting France out of the way?
Well, we can go out into the Atlantic a bit.
Look,
Get away from the Germans.
let's just take France, guys. I mean, if the Germans can do it, we can do
Full
it
of French
better.
people.
Not when we're done with it.
Jesus.
I'm sorry, was that too hardcore?
Well,
Like, we've got
it's your
Belgium.
YouTube channel.
What little there is. This is definitely not going to come back to bite me when I make my next job interview. You know,
Yeah.
like. So we heard that 2.5 hours into a stream in mid-December.
Go on, one of my most serious. Go on.
Yeah. Froggy says, when academic agent makes his tea, he puts the milk in first. Or as he calls it, fierst. Because it's like,
Does he?
yes, he
Fucking
does.
disgusting bastard.
Like,
I think that's one of those lies that he's just taking far for the sake of what happens.
mate, I've seen him have his cup of tea. He definitely puts the milk in first.
And you let him do it?
No, he just
You
does
actually stood by and watched that.
That's
What-
disgusting.
No, he comes over with a cup of...
Standing there and just watching a mugging take
Look,
place.
he comes over with his cup of tea, and he's just... Oh, and of course, everyone's asking him, like, how did you make that? And he's just like, milk in, tea in, there you go. He was also the only person who turned up to the pub where we were having the meet-up and refused to drink all night, apart from his Diet Coke he arrived with, and then cups of tea thereafter. So there you go.
Perfectly civilized.
Sorry, just for whoever is editing the Dankula bit, just another one quickly. Dankula, we're the Southern Pansies, yet we keep winning all the wars. It's really weird. Sorry, carry on. I expect someone to send me a compilation of Sargon ragging on the Scots.
EJP, if you're watching, get on that. We're like that. T-Bone 121974 says, the EU did try and call Cadbury's chocolate Vegilate. Or Vegilate.
That is a
Yes,
terrible
they
fucking
did.
name.
Yes, they tried to redesignate British-produced chocolate. I think in the end, they agree on something like family chocolate or something like that.
See,
That's its official designation.
And you said that it was a conspiracy theory that the EU were working directly against us, but look what they pumped into our chocolate, all right?
Amazing. Like, it's all clear. It's like, it's very clear what we have. We have British chocolate, and then foreign chocolate, and that's the way it should always be defined. None of this...
But you can categorize literally anything that's non-domestic foreign.
Yeah.
Like, that's not, like, as silly as it sounds.
Well, it's like anyone who collects stamps. There are British stamps and there are foreign stamps. Like all the British stamps, neatly ordered by year with all these different input pictures.
The important thing, though, is it centers us as the center of all life experience.
As it should be.
Yes.
Oh, we are the zero meridian.
Yes. Which is precisely why the Germans want to be like us.
I bet you didn't realise you were joining such a supremacist stream, MauLer, when you...
I never know what to expect on any stream I join. I'm always happy to just talk about things that happen to rise up. Oh shit, I said rise up. I mean, whatever should happen to be discussed.
Guardian headline tomorrow: YouTuber MauLer calls for reformation of British Empire.
I mean, let's face it, 60% of the country would call for the reformation of the British Empire.
Yeah, they probably would, actually, yeah.
Or Star Wars as the cause of the unrest.
Why did you?
Perfectly credible.
And in 5 years' time, like God Emperor MauLer, now standing over his army of many, many massives, the massive army, if you will. Stands there and describes how we had to take Hollywood. It was the colony had to be reclaimed for the good of the planet.
God, is there any way to stop them?
It's like, oh, what have we got? William Southwest says, speaking of Labour leaders, how do you think Jezza is here to stay? I'm wondering how long the Honourable Mrs. Phillips will keep her knife sharpened.
Still waiting for that knife, Jess? Come on.
Yeah, she just seems to be a complete pussy when it comes to actually going through with what she says.
Well, I read somewhere that the intention was until summer.
Her boyfriend said that.
Her boyfriend? What?
Sorry, carry on. Cross humor.
Her wife's boyfriend. Okay, yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah. The Harry, we'll wait and see. I fully expect him to not learn anything from this, and it'll come down to a question of whether or not the NEC is scared to lose these extremist activist wing that now make up a considerable sum of their donations.
I think they're in complete control of the NEC.
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me either. Yeah.
No. From what I've read, it really does seem to be the case. So
I've heard the same thing. Yes.
Basically bent the knee, and from Labour Party insiders. And so it's just like, I think they can't get rid of Jeremy Corbyn. That's what I think it is.
Mm.
He is like fucking some sort of Soviet dictator who's actually taken over.
Sorry, I just have to correct someone in chat who says, amusingly in GMT terms, the UK is Zulu time. And I have to say that Zulu is just a moniker that you add on for whatever your local time is, militarily speaking. Where was I? Harry Channel donated $10, thank you, says, Chewbacca is a Wookiee for Endor, so he has to be acquitted for eating all those people. Thanks very much, man. And I think we're almost there. The T-Bone 121974 again says, Britisher rearranged Miss Abbott's shoes. Is this true, Britisher? Did you betray us all?
I couldn't possibly say.
It sounds like it was special ops against the Labour Party. You didn't betray her.
No. He maybe he brought the right shoe back. So
right.
I wouldn't go that far. No. I can definitely deny that.
It's just like they weren't even the same type of shoe. One had a buckle on. Like,
yeah, but why would she own two of the same type of shoe that were both left?
No, but I know, but like. They weren't even similar. You know how like you get two pairs of loafers.
It would be funny if the person who then brought another shoe, somebody who was sent to fetch another shoe, would have arrived with a completely unsuitable sort of. It would be a right shoe, but it would be a red stiletto.
High heel. Yeah.
Pyrrhus of Epirus says, Habet regnum super Maria America. Or Americae. Americae. I have absolutely no idea what this means. Maybe I've just said a hate crime. Let me just just translate this, presumably from Latin. There we go. Come on. Says, the United Kingdom has the seas. i.e. Grand Britannia rules the waves. So thank you very much for that, man. And Drunk Shovel says, hello guys, YouTube never told me you were on. I'm a mite cross about it. Hope you're all well. I think we're doing pretty good, aren't we, guys? But I think we are winding towards the end, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm going to head off in a minute, man.
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing I want to end on, which is more like entertainment-wise, do you remember that Benedict Cumberbatch was in a film called Brexit, The Uncivil War?
No.
So a film was released in this year called Brexit, The Uncivil War, and it's Benedict Cumberbatch plays Dominic Cummings as he leads a popular but controversial campaign to convince British voters to leave the EU from 2015 up until the present day. And apparently it is the most Remain-heavy propaganda that you can imagine. And it's supposed to, presumably, like, it's the Hollywood attempt to explain Brexit to the rest of the world, and in particular the Americans.
So to anyone watching, Dominic Cumberbatch must, in that case, be portraying... Benedict Cumberbatch must be portraying Dominic Cummings as obviously a likable, middle-of-the-road, common-sense sort of fella. It couldn't be otherwise.
They actually play music from A Clockwork Orange in the film. Like, that's
Jesus.
In order to kind of portray things. And the reviews are quite a good read if you want to read it. But that might be worth your time to just see what a train wreck of a Brexit film actually looks like. But yes, I think with that we're rolling towards the end. It's been an absolute pleasure to have all the three of you on this evening, especially my not so regular guests. So it's been really good to have you on, MauLer, despite the fact that obviously I know most politics isn't your thing, but I hope you've had enough to wet your whistle in general.
Yeah, that's absolutely all right. I am very much in the camp of, if it's a subject I can't add to, I'd rather not try to add to it desperately or anything. Like, plenty of opportunity to jump in. So yeah, I appreciate it.
Also, obviously, appreciate Sargon coming on.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you very much. We'll have to do something again soon. And thanks again to the Britisher, who's always here pretty much.
A pleasure as always.
With that, I have only to wish you all a Merry Christmas. It remains to be seen whether or not Fake Accents will run on the 23rd. I hope that it will, but we'll see. And until then, I hope that everybody has a really good week. Take care, everyone, and good night.
Right.
No.
Toodle pip.